Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
K-Man's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Brought to you exclusively on Kiss FM by J. Michael, fashion for everyone. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Good morning, Blake and Aaron. How are you guys doing?
We are good. What do you got for us?
All right. So CBC continues to work ever so diligently. They have confirmed that an additional number of Cuban migrants have been deported. So they, we haven't had any, I better not jinx the situation, but we haven't had any arrive in a little while now. And we've had about 70 actually deported this year so far. So they continue to, they continue to deport more. So they escorted a few more this week, a few days ago. Last night, there was an award ceremony for civil servants to acknowledge the hard work of all civil servants in the Cayman Islands. And we'd like to do a big shout out to Miss Orrit, who won the CIG Employee of the Year. Sarah Orrit, she's a customer service officer within the facilities management department. She sits right at the front desk. A lot of people will know her bubbly personality if they have to check in at the front desk. So congratulations to her. She's the winner of the 2022 CIG Employee of the Year award.
Great.
Congratulations.
Yeah. You guys remember the former BVI premier had gotten caught in a drug ring and the whole 9 yards? Yeah. Well, it looks like he's going to be the only one to stand trial in the narcotics case after his former port director, let me see, Oli Anveen Menard, indicated that she's actually intending to plead guilty. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm assuming if she's pleading guilty, both her and her son, they are probably going to turn state's witness against the former premier as well. So he might want to rethink.
Usually what happens, you get a better deal and if you testify against.
Yep, absolutely. So that was quite an interesting case for BVI. And we know that, the UK was stepping in to do certain things, and the people there were not pleased with the movements. But look at this, because they're like, oh, let's wait and see if it was really true. Well, the setup rumors appear to not have been true. CIBC is going to stop most over-the-counter transactions soon, effective July the 3rd. So if you bank with CIBC First Caribbean Cayman, you want to make sure that you're aware of that situation and you take whatever necessary steps. Get registered, I guess, for online banking. Make sure that you know how to use it. Tropical depression number 2 develops and is being watched. It's, I think, not really what's been dumping water on us, but there's quite a bit of activity already in the tropics. Nothing serious, just lots of rain showers from above. But of course, hurricane season officially started yesterday, and both the premier and the governor issued announcements to just remind people to be vigilant and prepare.
All right, those rain showers from up above.
Good, good advice.
That's where rain comes from.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Yes.
All right. Catch that.
Bigger, better, bolder. The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's Community Radio.
We are still spilling the tea.
And committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman,
Live, direct.
It's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. My goodness, I simply do not know where the time goes, but here we are. Happy Friday. Wagwan, folks, wagwan. Tell me. We actually have a lot going on, so we're going to be discussing some of these things here today. This week, I feel like went by relatively quickly. I cannot believe we're actually in the month of June already. Wow. Hot mess. What to do? You just got to keep up with the times, Sunny Chow. Keep on trucking on. Keep on moving. So, got a couple things on my errands list today. I think I'm going to be stuck in front of the computer for quite a bit of the day. You know, some days you just got to dedicate to the things you don't like doing. Paperwork, invoicing, and all this kind of stuff. You know, we complain about the cost of everything going up, right? And I've got to tell you, first of all, I saw a email this morning that said properties in Miami-Dade County were going up by 12%, property values going up by 12%. And I was like, oh, Lord, are you serious? My goodness. So in addition to, you know, pricing going up for us, it's really, I suspect, happening a lot of places or practically all over the world. I don't think anybody can boast that their pricing for anything is actually going down. Inflation impacts everyone worldwide. So I was recently a little bit perturbed by QuickBooks, of all people, because I've been using them for years. You guys will know, you know, through my training company, Micromatrix, we used to do QuickBooks training courses. A lot of businesses use QuickBooks to keep track of their accounting. And I'm going to tell you, you know, when things are happening in Cayman, a lot of times I know that we think they're happening to just us and we're living in isolation. But I'm going to give you an example of how these things are it's a worldwide trend. And there's really little to nothing that you can do about it. And you might as well just get with the program. Ooh, looks like I need to charge the phone a little bit here. Let me unplug it and do that for a minute. So, so a couple of years ago, they were forcing me to, you know, they have an online option now, right? And I didn't want to do online. It's like a monthly fee. And I'm thinking, nah, I don't want to do that. I just want to, you know, the one that I used to be able to get, and I'll tell you, they've changed everything. But the one that I used to be able to get, you pay by, you know, every year. They're a very unusual software company, but they update their software every year. But I wouldn't update it every year. Like sometimes it would just be like one or two little things, features that they've had. I'm like, I don't need that, whatever. So maybe every other year, every third year, it would be worth the upgrade. So I noticed a couple of years ago that you could no longer do the desktop version. So they were going, not forcing you, but I mean, in a way, they're forcing you to do the online version, but the desktop version was now going to be subscription based. A lot of these companies are doing this. Microsoft is doing the same thing. So remember, there's a time when you used to be able to purchase Microsoft Office and you just purchased it and then you used it for the life of the computer or whatever, right? Now, the Microsoft Office suite is like a subscription based suite. So you pay for it monthly, annual fees, whatever. So everybody, this is the way of software, right? Oh, you're going to pay a monthly fee, you're going to pay a subscription fee. And their logic is they're able to, you know, do more research and development, more R&D. They're able to offer you support. And now it makes sense and justifies why they want to charge you this subscription fee. Well, I wasn't happy with it. I was like, why do I have to pay a subscription fee? I'm happy using the old version, but what they do to kind of force your hand is after a certain amount of time, they no longer support older versions. So I think with QuickBooks, it was about 3 years out. they would stop supporting anything that was 3 years or more. Hmm. So I thought, all right, let me go with the subscription service. It wasn't that bad. It was pretty much the same price as purchasing it, but now you're paying it every year. So I thought, okay, I went with a subscription purchase. So this year now it pops up, oh, it's time to renew. Well, guess what? The renewal price went from, I want to say, because Amazon, you can buy software on Amazon. You guys know this, right? So normally I would actually get QuickBooks cheaper on Amazon than I could from the company that actually owns QuickBooks, which is so bizarre. But Amazon just sometimes really gets good pricing. This is why, as a consumer, you've got to make sure that you shop around. So I see them now, say it was $200. Maybe it's like sometimes you get it for a little bit cheaper if it was on sale. Now it's over $500. Hear this, cahoots. Over $500 for the annual subscription for QuickBooks. And this isn't like, they have different versions of QuickBooks. So they've got like the enterprise edition, which is like big corporations and whatever. They've got multi-user. Obviously, I know big time companies, so I don't even need the multi-user one. $540-$50. I was like, what? So I call them and I'm like, are you people really going to be stressing me now? Oh, yes. Well, we're sorry about that. But, we're now offering support and this and that. I was like, please, I don't need your support. The number of times I've had to call you, which was pretty useless. I could have just Googled it and other people already have had the issue and posted it online on an online help forum. Doesn't justify, this kind of money. Well, listen, you pay to play. So it's like you pay it or you don't, and then you don't have access to it. So I begrudgingly just recently renewed it. And I said, what's it going to be next time? Double that price? And you see the online version, again, because they really want people to go online if you can. But the online version doesn't make any sense for people in Cayman because a lot of the features that it offers isn't things that we use here anyway. So it ties in. I mean, I think it's fantastic because U.S. banking system is a lot more unified. So when you send people invoices in the U.S., they can pay directly to your account, and it's all integrated, right? You can do all sorts of stuff with like payroll services and blah blah blah. We don't have those features available to us, but there you go, paying a premium price. So I saw on top of that's just one example of the increase in fees, and there's certain services and certain types of software that you have to have in order to do your job, right? And as much as I hate to admit it, QuickBooks does make my life a lot easier. And if I need a report, like the bank says, okay, send us your balance sheet or your, what's the other one called, P&L, profit and loss or whatever. I can't be manually trying to figure that stuff out, right? And if I had to pay an accountant to do it, to be fair, it would be a lot more than $550. So what I'm able to do, as long as you keep your information in QuickBooks, for those of you who have small companies, I mean, it is worth it still to consider an option like this, because then you have access to reports. You can kind of see what's going on with your company. You just got to make sure you put in the information accurately. So I had to bite the bullet. And it got me to thinking this morning, because I was reading some of the comments from people about CIBC, and we're going to talk about that here this morning. Do we have a choice? I would say not really. Technology is forcing our hand. Even yesterday, I was talking to someone about AI, and I have to admit that I haven't really immersed myself in AI. So I don't know that I fully grasp its potentials. I haven't done the whole chat GPT thing or anything yet. But conceptually, I understand what's going on, but I haven't used it. So I haven't really seen the full potential. And I've got to get on board. You can't allow yourself. And I think human nature is a little bit, although I'm a pretty, I consider myself a little bit forward thinking in terms of technology. And I'm always happy to try out new things and embrace new technology. But I still don't think like I'm on the cutting edge of anything. There are people who immerse themselves in this for work and other reasons. But still, I have to force myself. I'm like, we live in a world where you either adapt or you get left behind. And that's the God's truth, right? Miss Vernita, good morning. Good morning to Marshall. Diamond Princess. Miss Vili, good morning to you. How are you? Alejandro is here. Miss Dean is here. She's saying it's raining by her. Well, looks like we have relatively clear skies in Savannah, Newlands, Lower Valley area. Good morning to Miss Corrine. She's getting some liquid sunshine. She says that's what she calls the rain, liquid sunshine. Morning to Carmelie. Juanita's here. First Lady Jeanne, good morning to you. Everton is in class, front row and center. Aliano. Miss Iva, how are you? Who is reading these comments? Everybody sees them. Yasmin is here. Miss Joy, Felicia, Toby, Olivia, Buenos Dias, Junior, Leroy says it's hot today and we need some more rain. Oh gosh. So the rain is bringing out the mosquitoes and the crabs. Next day or two, good crab time, honey chill. Flushes them out. Speaking of crabs, where do they hide in between? Because they're still there, right? I mean, these are land crabs. So I'm assuming they're just in a hole. And then somebody really needs to explain the whole crabbing thing to me. So they're in a hole and the rainwater just flushes them out. Is that what we have going on? So the rest of the year when it's not rainy season, they're just hibernating in a hole? Do they come out of the hole? What are they doing? What's the life of a crab like? Obviously, we see them start to emerge now that it's been raining. I saw a big one a couple nights ago on the fence line. He was pretty big. Zeus was checking him out, but he doesn't quite know what they are. And I thought, oh God, Zeus, don't get too close. I'm trying to remember which dog it was that I had. I think that was Rupert. Was that Rupert or Oscar? But I had a dog once that got snagged by a crab claw. Literally, the crab went clamp, and the claw broke off. But that doesn't let go once it's like locked. And that poor dog, I want to say, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Coco. I think it might have been Rupert. They used to go and stick their heads down crab holes. They were kind of aggressive at the crabs. So one day a crab had enough and just, bloop. And so we had to like pry off the crab claw off of his lip. I was like, oh my gosh. And listen, based on the dog's response, it looked like it was pretty painful to get clamped by a crab. So Toby, how are you? KK says TGIF. Miss Elaine is here. Alejandro is saying, be careful about Chat GPT. I don't know enough about it, but what I want to say is we're always very hesitant, I think, with technology. What we don't know scares us, I suppose. Like I still don't, conceptually, I struggle to understand 3D printing. I'm like, how can a printer print an object? Like I'm still, like I need to physically see it. I think does a school here have a 3D printer? Somewhere I heard about this recently. But I feel like I need to see it. And even then I'm just like, how do you print a physical item? Like it just is so weird to me. It's such a foreign concept. But listen, we are pushing the limits of technology in so many ways, the medical field, just like everything, right? They're talking about being able to incubate babies, like entirely grow a baby in a tube and an incubator kind of system where a woman never has to even carry a child again. It's just, some things are just so out there, but yet probably not that far away. It's on the horizon, which is a little bit scary, I think, as well. Morning, Alice, Robert, Tracy's here. What scares you with technology? Like what tech thing right now that's happening that you don't understand and that you're hesitant about? So CIBC made an announcement that July 3rd, so you guys got about a month, they are going to pretty much be going online. And so, counter staff, a lot of their over-the-counter transactions are going to disappear. And I was reading some of the comments on Facebook, and people are like, well, that's not friendly to your senior customers. And it truly isn't. But, there's an expectation that eventually everybody has to get with the program. I don't know, man. I'm just like, I get it from the bank's perspective. Because even CNB, although they have the largest staff complement, the most banks on island, you go in there, they're normally pretty well staffed, right, with people at the counter. They have online banking. I think they're still working out a few quirks for business users, but it's pretty good. And you know how they encourage you to use online banking? The online banking services tend to be free. So if you order a draft online, that's free. But if you go in the counter and do the exact same transaction, you pay for it. So they're pushing you in the exact same direction, right? So a couple of the comments, let me read to you what people are saying about CIBC and this new movement. At least they've given you some notice. So one person said, what will the elderly who have no idea how to use digital services, what will the elderly have no idea how to use digital services? Lord have mercy. They do have some exceptions, by the way, which include senior clients. So that's good. But what I want to say is eventually, at some point in time, there will be no exceptions. You do realize this, right? So today's seniors get an exception. They're getting older. They're dying out. If you're a younger person now, don't expect that when you're a senior, or when I say younger, like middle age, 40, 50, that's not senior anymore. They're talking about people in their 70s and 80s. Don't expect that when you get to be a senior, that they're going to be making exceptions for you. They're going to expect by then that you're going to be with the program. So, let me just put this in here so you guys can see what the exception categories are. I feel like a lot of banks in Cayman are moving in the direction of almost not wanting to be in the commercial banking space. They want to just do like, what are their high-end clients called? Wealth management. They kind of want to do that. A lot of banks have closed branches. It's hard to find any real person when you go in that you can talk to. And counter staff, one or two people, you waste your entire lunch hour standing in a bank. Someone said it seems like all the Canadian banks are moving in that direction. And I think it's true, because I'm thinking like Scotia, RBC. Like, I haven't been to RBC in a minute, but normally you walk in there and there's hardly anybody there. And they've all kind of made announcements that, do your banking online. Remember, Scotia Bank set up the kiosk at Cayman Bay so that when you go in there, you can sit at the kiosk and do your transactions. So it's definitely becoming more and more difficult to do business any other way, which means that you, the people, unfortunately, have got to get on top of it. So Mr. Ransford, thanks for the comment. He says, we need a government to protect the Caymanian people, especially seniors. And I said, well, what do you expect government to do about the digital revolution, which isn't even really a revolution anymore? And he says, well, surely they can implement laws that would help those of us who are not digitally savvy to continue to live in society. Does that make sense? To have governments try to go backwards, because for all intents and purposes, that's what Mr. Ransford, with all due respect, is asking to happen. I get the why. I get, seniors, blah, blah, blah. But I also understand, quite frankly, that, it is much more challenging and difficult to tell companies, oh, don't deploy technology, because technology has been extremely beneficial. It helps a lot of us do some of the most, I don't pay bills in person anymore. Why would I do that? That's completely a waste of time. So I think on the one hand, we have to push ourselves, we have to move forward, even when it's a little bit scary. Like, artificial intelligence has so much amazing potential for good and not so good. I mean, there was a story recently where one of the forerunners, I guess considered the grandfather of AI, resigned from, I think it was Google that he was with, because he was saying that now AI has gotten so scary, like the potential for everything from doctoring photos to, you can grab somebody's voice now, and because of artificial intelligence, call in, and anything that's like voice prompted. So if you have, heaven forbid, banking systems that can be done by voice recognition or whatever, now you can't trust that anymore, because your voice can be duplicated very, very successfully by artificial intelligence. And, they're like, what's next? How do we protect people's, sort of uniqueness and identity in a world where anything from them, literally, there's the potential that it could be copied? So it's scary, but I don't see us ever going backwards. So I think what we have to do is we have to figure out, how to protect ourselves, how to make sure that both corporations and government agencies are ready for this ongoing digital revolution, if that's what we're going to call it. There was some interesting news recently about the concerns that hospitals are having as it relates to. Oh, I knew Denny would be calling me. It was only a matter of. Hold on, Denny. It was only a matter of when he was going to call on this topic, and I know exactly what he's going to talk about. Good morning, Denny. Uh-oh. Hello? All right, hold on, Denny. I'm going to call you back let me tell you exactly what Denny's going to talk about. I don't want him to hear this because then he's not going to talk about it. But hold on. I know exactly where this conversation is going to go. I'm going to tell y'all how well I know Denny. Hold on. Good morning, Miss Alba. All right, Denny, I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment with you, right?
Okay.
I'm going to mute the call so you can't hear me. Don't listen to me any other way, because I'm going to guess what it is that you're going to say this morning. Let's see how good my artificial intelligence is. All right, don't listen. Don't listen.
If it's good.
Don't listen. Hold on. All right, so I'm gonna mute him. You can't hear me, right, Denny? All right. Listen, I bet this is how well you know people. I bet Denny is gonna talk now about the national ID. How many of y'all think the conversation is gonna go in that direction? Let's see. All right, Denny. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Happy Friday.
Morning.
What's on your?
I was going to say that if your intelligence was that good, it would be real, not artificial.
What's on your mind today?
I was listening to what you're saying about technology.
Yes.
I think the concerns of the older folks are saying, they're talking about their lack of understanding about certain aspects of technology, and they're a bit apprehensive about getting involved in it. But there's another aspect to technology that needs to be considered. And that is that if you become overly reliant on one thing and you fail to have a contingency plan for when that fails, To give you an example with, say, Hurricane Ivan, we had to go back to paper for a while because we were out of power.
Right.
And so,
and people hadn't thought about the contingencies as it relates to
yes,
protecting data overseas, or some of those options. Yes.
And it sounds good that, oh yes, we're moving ahead, but moving ahead without having backup plans for your primary way of functioning and a backup plan for your backup plan is foolish.
Yes.
It is a lack of understanding about the number one rule and economics and politics and everything, and that is, if something can go wrong, it will. The question is, how well did you plan for what could go wrong? So how well do you know me?
Well, not as well as I thought, evidently, because I thought the direction you were going to go today was talk about the digital ID.
Oh, well, that's part of it as well. Or look at it this way. Society claims that, well, some aspects of society want to go cashless. And that sounds great. But do you know how much cashless currency you can withdraw from the bank?
You mean you can just add it to, like, transfer it online?
Like what? No, but we're talking about contingencies here now. How much, when the system breaks, how much cashless currency can you withdraw from the bank?
I guess none.
That's right.
Yeah.
It sounds good. But if we fail to properly think about what we are building ourselves into, we'll pay a heavy price for that ignorance. But I'm not against technology. I'm for technology, but smart use of technology, not making it our master. And by the way, the expert that you were referring to, yes, he was from Google, and Google has some really smart people working for them, right? And I would suggest that the world that people try to understand why he would have that degree of concern.
Yeah, well,
Elon Musk shares that concern.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they are on the inside, right? So they definitely have way more knowledge and understanding of some of the more serious implications of the misuse of technology and artificial intelligence specifically than we do.
And you see that word misuse when it comes to, say, the digital ID, for example. What I object to is giving government a power with no restraint. In other words, we have rights, right? And if you give government a power, what potential did you give government, and what rights do you need to consider in relation to that power that you've given government? And if you didn't provide for any protection against the abuse of that power, then you're not thinking clearly. And I'm not saying I understand the value of a unique identifier, but there can be many abuses that could take place with them. And that's what I'm objecting.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks very much.
Take care.
So one of the other areas of concern, folks, is that I was just, again, reading the comments in relation to this post, right? One customer said, "I'm ceasing to be their customer. I despise the online banking trend." Well, it's not a trend that's going to go away. I hate to tell this person, this is Miss Lisa. If you cease to be their customer, where are you going to go? Which bank you're going to go to that isn't online or isn't forcing you by extension to have an online presence? I can't think of a single bank now. I mean, I think CNB they were the last ones to update. I mean, they had online already, but they were certainly the last ones to kind of push towards finally doing like a massive upgrade on the online banking system. Every single bank is online. Every single utility company now has the ability. I don't know about Cayman Brac, but definitely in Grand Cayman, every single bank gives you, whether it's through your online banking, every utility, CUC, you've got, who else is there? What are the bills that we pay? Water Authority. You can do all of these through the online banking system, or I don't know if you can do it through their website, if they have a payment portal directly in the website. Most of them, you can just do it, set up whatever with your bank and do it that way. But I don't see how you get away from the trend of online banking. If you don't like that trend, you're going to be keeping your money under the mattress real soon, because I don't really see that trend disappearing and going away. There are benefits and I guess disadvantages to everything. Someone else said, I wonder how, this is El Ray, 5 minutes ago, he posted, I wonder how this will transfer, how many will transfer to CNB and Butterfield. But CNB and Butterfield have been the leaders in online banking. Now, to be fair, they still have counter staff. So do I miss not having to go inside of a bank? No. During COVID, I couldn't believe the number of people that were so stressed out about the fact that they can't go and physically stand in line at a bank. I was like, why would you want to do that? I despise when somebody gives me a draft that it forces me to have to go to the bank. I love the US banking system. I don't have an account in the US, but I know people who do, and they have the ability with their phone. Somebody gives them a bank draft or a check. They can simply scan that and deposit it directly into their account. And that physical piece of paper never has to go to any institution. Like, you can just shred it afterwards. In fact, did you know, you might know if you've been following this platform, during COVID, during the lockdown, a lot of people stressed out about, oh my God, I can't get a Western Union. I can't send money or receive money and whatever. And I said, listen, you can certainly send money online. Western Union has an online portal. And it was really good because I even signed up and I was using it for $2.99. I could send money from Cayman to the US to Jamaica. It was way cheaper than the headache of standing in line and then turning around and spending, what's the average cost? $25, $30 CI to send that same amount of money? $2.99. Guess what they did? They increased their prices after COVID. I couldn't believe it. I was like, really, Western Union, for an online transaction? That's crazy. The convenience of doing it online was amazing. If you have someone in the US that you need to send money to their US bank account, or you have a bank account in the US that you need to top up, you can do it by ordering a bank draft, a Cayman, but international draft, obviously. You order an international draft, and then you can scan it because that's how their system works. Back to technology, you've got to have online banking. But once you have access to online banking, you're able to scan it, deposit it into your bank account. You put a little note on the back. This is for deposit with Bank of America only. It gets the numbers down at the bottom. And you know how smart this stuff is? I do this every single month, right? So I pay people overseas this way. And here's the crazy thing about it. CNB, a couple times I've ordered international draft. They've made a mistake and given me a local draft. I didn't catch it, so I grabbed the draft, run at the bank. And I'm like trying to scan it a million times. Bank of America is like, nope, not working. And then I look at the draft and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, every month it works. What's going on this month? Come to find out, it was the international draft. So the system is smart enough to know that this isn't an international draft, right? So it's not going to deposit a draft that's a local draft, and to them probably means nothing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the only difference that I see, obviously, again, the online system is smarter than me, because the only difference I see is that the address for the international draft, it's drawn on a bank, like Citibank or whatever, out of New York or Miami or whatever. but their scanning system, you just literally scan it with your phone camera, could tell me that this draft was not acceptable. It wasn't telling me why. I had to figure that part out on my own. So I had to go back to CNB, get the new draft, and it worked perfectly fine. I'm thinking technology really is amazing. And I think in our lifetime, we've seen so much. I imagine what our parents who are like in their 80s and maybe some of them in their 90s, how they must feel about technology. Because sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed, but I push myself to try to keep up. Well, you guys know how we do it here in CMR. Big shout out to Kevin Watler. He's got an expert on the show for us this morning, just like that. I mean, we didn't even have this discussion planned, but since we're talking about it, he has managed to get us an expert in GPT, chat GPT, natural language processing, human reasoning, artificial intelligence, cognitive science. I mean, this is amazing. John Liccato. I hope I've gotten your last name correctly. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Sandy. How you doing?
I'm good. So you understand all this artificial intelligence stuff? Because I feel like I'm still trying to keep up, or not keep up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professor of computer science, and I teach artificial intelligence and natural language processing at the University of South Florida.
Yes.
By the way, I think I'm
an alumni, so go Bulls.
What's that?
I'm an alumni of USF, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, even for me, though, it's hard to keep up. Things are moving so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how would you explain? I mean, obviously, I feel like artificial intelligence is like the word of the year right now, right? Everybody's talking about it. We're talking about chat GPT. I don't even really know that I understand what chat GPT is. How do you explain it explain it to me? What is it?
So one way to think about it, and this may be a really simple way of describing it, but it's a good way to start, is, with predictive text on phones, right? When you're, typing a text message and it tries to predict what word you're going to say next based on what words you've already inputted, right? ChatGPT is based on what we call an autoregressive language model called GPT 3.5. And in some sense, it's exactly that. It takes a string of symbols, text, words, paragraphs, whatever, and tries to predict what word should come next. And if you just have it predict that word, and then now you feed the original input plus the new word back in, now you can predict the next word, and then you just keep doing that iteratively. So think of predictive text and imagine that you use it in a way to just keep generating words over and over, right? That would essentially be what language models like ChatGPT are doing.
Mm-hmm. So how is it then? Because I understand part of the premise is that I can just give ChatGPT like instructions, like write an essay about, I don't know, whatever, training a dog or whatever. And it's going to just pump out an essay for me that's like logical, complete sentences, makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that possible?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Surprisingly, and I mean, this makes sense if you study language deeply, but a lot of what we say is repetitive and predictable. We use sentence structures that can be, if I ask you a basic question about, how's the weather today, then you're probably going to say something positive, something negative, and, those sentences that you use to describe those things are going to be very systematically produced, right? So models like ChatGPT really exploit that sort of structure and those commonalities. And whatever patterns we use to sound human-like to each other, these language models have more than likely picked up on those patterns and are using that to sound human as well. So they're pretty good at sounding logical and sounding like they make sense. If you analyze it at a real deep level, you'll see that there are some problems with their reasoning, but some of those are really hard to tell on first glance.
Wow. And it's interesting that you've also got some experience in, is it logic generally, or human logic? Your
Yeah,
logic,
so I also spent a lot of time studying human reasoning,
right?
and the limitations of human reasoning, which I'm sure you know are pretty frequent, and how we can help make people communicate better, argue better, and generally make better decisions.
Yeah. The interesting thing is when I was at USF, one of the most, I guess, interesting courses that I took was actually a course in logic. And, you think to yourself, oh, I'm a logical person. Like people say that, oh, yeah, I'm a logical person. Like I believe in common sense and logic. And I was really blown away by the rules of logic, right?
Sure,
When
sure.
I did this course, I was, I just took it as one of those, you're kind of like at the end of your degree, like, oh, I got some free credits. Let me take stuff that like sounds interesting. For one of my courses, I was trying to avoid having to do like trigonometry or something, which I was like, oh
Mhm.
God, I'll never use that. Like, give me a break with the math, right? I'm not a math person. I was an English major. So I did Greek and Latin root words, which again, I thought, oh, this is going to be a great class. And it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be, but so much more
Mhm.
interesting, and really pushed my limits and the boundaries for me a little bit. But I remember taking this logic book and it just had my mind like, whoa, like my mind was literally blown at how illogical I really was, and most people are. And although we think we're relying on logic, they're like actual just formulas and rules, and we don't always operate in that way. So it
Yeah,
was pretty fascinating.
yeah, absolutely. I love that, and I strongly recommend to anybody who has a chance to take at least an intro course in logic, just to see that those rules are there, and it kind of helps you to. I mean, I still use it every day. Whenever I'm trying to think of an argument for why I should eat at Chipotle today, right? Or whether I should eat something else for lunch. It's nice. It helps you sort of take disorganized thoughts and figure out how to put them into a structure, and then analyze that structure. And I think we would all communicate a little better with each other if we did a little more of that.
Mm. I think that one of the things that probably, based on what you've said, that artificial intelligence would really be relying on is that human beings are actually very much creatures of habit, right? So we're predictable a lot more than we think. I was just joking around with my caller just now, Denny, when he called in. First of all, I knew he was going to call. There's certain topics that for sure I know Denny is going to call in on. And I kind of was trying to predict that he was going to talk about like the national ID system and some of the concerns around a national ID, which our government is looking at implementing in the very near future. So people are predictable. I see it all the time. So even language patterns are predictable, behaviors are predictable. The way that we think is predictable, our thought patterns as well. How do you force people to not be as predictable, or is that a good thing?
In some sense, predictability can be a good thing. There's a lot of domains in which, the standard answer to how we can think better is we tell people to slow down, right? Just the first answer that comes to your head, that's not necessarily the one you want to go with. But slowing down and thinking is not always a luxury that we have, right? There's some domains where you have to act quickly and you have to just do whatever comes to your mind first. And in that case, predictability is actually good. It's the reason that we have this instinct in the first place, right? Because it's served us so well in the past. When it looks like someone is trying to use that predictability against you, then that's the time that you want to maybe slow down and try to do something out of the ordinary, right?
Right. So that is super interesting. So Louis, in support of things like mobile banking, a lot of our seniors are struggling. You talked about the fact that the predictability is something in terms of the human race that has actually worked really, really well for us. And it's also built into like our instincts, which date back from when we were, thousands of years. We gained certain things sort of instinctually. So like when you're in a situation where there's present danger, even the fight or flight response, that's part of our ancestral, heritage, I guess, if we can put it that way. But those are things that have taught us how to survive when we're in a situation that could be life or death, right? And a lot of times having that, because you don't have the luxury of you just let me work out the logic of this person's got a gun to my head, what am I going to do? So instinctively you just do something, and maybe 8 out of 10 times it's the right move and it saves your life. Is there a way to develop that skill even more? Like, is there a way to be more intuitive about even just thinking on your feet? Is there any way to kind of force the human brain to do that?
Sure, yeah. And a lot of times the specific way you do that would depend on what domain you want to apply it to. So, I think if you're training someone for, say sports, right? A domain where you have to act quickly and you rarely have the time to slow down and think about strategy. Well, one way you do that is you take a whole bunch of well thought out strategies that have been planned outside of playtime, I suppose, right? And sort of review them just over and over, right? And this is, football players have to memorize plays, right? That's an example of that. Memorize externally developed strategies and drill them into your head so that when you're on the field and you have no idea what to do next, these things that you've memorized will just pop into your head, and you can actually move them from system 2, which is the sort of slow, deliberate reasoning processes we have, to system 1 if you do that kind of repetition. But that strategy might not necessarily work with, I'm not sure if you're a mathematician or in a field where you have to do this sort of systematic, or even in some fields of English, if you're a writer, right? This kind of quick thinking might not serve you so well. Right. So the short answer is it depends a lot on what you want to do best.
Yes. So practice, the old adage that practice makes perfect, which, we're never perfect, but that's probably as close as you can get to practicing different types of scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So interesting. So, what does the future hold? Here in the Cayman Islands, we have a bank that just announced that, basically they're getting rid of counterstaff. Some of the, they didn't say they were getting rid of counterstaff, but basically I think that's what they meant. A lot of the functions available that you could do at a counter, like going up and doing a bank deposit, whatever, they're paring that down. So it's going to be, they're encouraging people to use online banking. To me, online banking is not anything revolutionary. In fact, I feel like, especially for a so-called offshore jurisdiction, we're probably a little bit behind, because most places in the world, I was just talking about in the US, you can deposit checks from your phone, and we don't even have that capability or anything near that here. All of our banks here, none of them there's no centralized banking system. Their systems don't really speak to each other, It's not like in the US, like, your banks have the numbering at the bottom that tells you everything, the bank, the account numbers, all that. We don't have anything kind of cohesive in that way. But in terms of what's happening around the world, what are we heading towards? I was talking about 3D printers, which is something that I don't quite understand, how a printer can print a physical thing, right? Yeah. What's emerging? Like, what's artificial intelligence really going to be doing?
Yeah. So automation will accelerate for sure. Everybody saw automation coming, right? Everybody knew that this was going to be something that we have to face eventually. The pandemic really sped things up. It made it so that a lot of people left the workforce, and companies were not eager to pay other people to replace them. So they embraced the speeding up of automating a lot of jobs. With technologies like ChatGPT, I'll say this: the technologies underlying ChatGPT are not the most powerful tools that are currently available. There are technologies that researchers are familiar with that are much more powerful than the public version of ChatGPT. So automation is going to accelerate. I'm not going to make a claim that it's human level or will be within the next 2 or 3 years, but what I'm telling everybody is we need to prepare for it anyway, just because it's such a big change, to have a artificial system that is capable of doing any kind of reasoning a human can do. That's such a big change in human history that even if it's not going to happen in the next 5 years, we wouldn't lose out by being prepared for it anyway.
Wow. So we're gonna definitely see this in our lifetime. And I'm thinking, just as you were saying that, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago, there were these movies about artificial intelligence, like robots that go awry, horror movies, right? About what happens. And, I would watch a movie like that and go, oh yeah, that's funny, but it'll never happen. We'll never have a robot that will be that good at human reasoning and acting human-like or whatever, that they're literally going to be capable of replacing us. And yet in restaurants now, they have robots that are taking your order, right? And able to translate the order back to the kitchen. I think the cooks are still human, but at some point that
so
could
far.
change. Yeah. It is really mind-boggling. So how do we prepare for this, John? I mean, what do we do? Our elderly community, they don't even want to do online banking here. So how do we prepare? Like, I'm thinking my daughter, she's only 6 years old, right? The technology that will be available to her, I'm sure is going to blow the socks off of, I got an iPhone that I use 5% of its capabilities. How do we prepare ourselves for this?
It's going to be a rough transition for sure. If human history has taught us anything, anytime we've had these massive technological shifts, like, the shift from hunter-gatherer to agrarian, or the Industrial Revolution, these have always been accompanied by the need to dramatically change the societal values that served us well in previous generations. That is going to happen probably out of necessity at this point. It's the things that we value and the things that we value less, like, I don't know, art is not a highly paid profession, right? But that may be something that we should value more in a society where work is not necessarily something everybody has to do, right? I mean, I'm talking about a drastically different world that we need to prepare for.
Wow. Or do you think, as humans, knowing what you know about human logic, that we're actually going to be prepared?
I think some of us can be.
Yeah. And the divide. So, I think before, the divide is more along the lines of like financial divide, the haves and the have-nots. Is it going to change to be more of a digital divide? Like the people who understand technology and understand that?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I do, and that's something that I am very worried about. The idea that, people think that, if we do have human level artificial intelligence, then it'll be a tool that's accessible to everyone and it'll make everyone's lives better. That is not something that we can assume. It is very possible that the means to control this technology could be restricted to those who have the money, right? Who have the money and the actual computing power. Systems like ChatGPT, they can be made so that the API is accessible to everybody, meaning that, a lot of people with only a low entry point price can interact with the technology. But actually owning the underlying system is something that you need a lot of expensive hardware to do, a lot of expensive researchers to maintain and to train the system, right? So we do have to be very vigilant of this possibility that these technologies might fall into the hands of a few, the people who already are the haves in society.
Right. All right. We got Denny on the line. Good morning, Denny.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. What happens when the technology falls into the wrong hands?
I was thinking about this even in terms of wars and conflict and scammers. And so, John, what's the potential for what it could do that's not good? I mean, I'm assuming that's probably limitless in a way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it would be analogous to any other massively powerful weapon that has changed world history, right? Atomic weapons. But there's a big sense in which this technology is already being used by those who have malicious purposes, right? Misinformation, the spreading of, for example, if you want to figure out how the world feels about something, and you go on Twitter and you read all the tweets, and you say, oh, this is how the world feels about this topic. You can't assume that, because it might be that bots and language models have written a lot of those tweets, and there are coordinated campaigns to influence public opinion based on using these technologies. So that's already one example of a malicious use that we would expect to see more of with the language model technology.
If we look at the individual with device, let's say a phone in their hands, what's their vulnerability to a criminal using that artificial intelligence to compromise a person's personal affairs?
Yeah, so we already see that in the form of scams. Maybe say someone texts you out of nowhere and says, "Hey, they're with some official organization and they need some login information from you, or your social security number or something." And the old way to do it 5 years ago would be, okay, maybe talk back and forth with them a little bit and find out if they're actually human, if they actually know what they're talking about. But now, because we have conversational agents that can sound realistic and do this automatically, that may not be sufficient. So you have to now use more sophisticated strategies. For example, tell them, okay, give me a official phone number from your organization that I can verify using their website, and I will call you back before I give you any personal information. The fact that everybody can contact you through your mobile phone means that almost anybody can reach out with you to try to scam you.
In other words, the defense against high technology is low technology.
In some sense, sure. There are high-tech defenses against it. A lot of my work is trying to do that. We try to anticipate what people are going to how people are going to use this technology maliciously, like the stuff I mentioned with misinformation, right? And try to get ahead of it. Try to figure out how we can use NLP and language model advances to detect that stuff and counter it if possible.
Right.
So low-tech and high-tech solutions.
And I must say, I mean, during COVID, really, really recognized the dangers in so many different respects to misinformation. Even this morning, and now I'm so much more hyper vigilant with when I receive information. I don't automatically forward that link or pass it on. I question, is this real? Let me try to see what sources this is coming from. So by way of an example, someone sent me a link this morning saying, oh, Jamie Foxx is paralyzed and blind because he got the COVID vaccine. And I mean, on the face of it, that sounds pretty crazy. And I'm like, well, that doesn't even sound true. But when I go to Google and I do a search and I see all these publications carrying it, but then I look at who is actually carrying the story, right? And the types of publications that are carrying it give me pause, because I know that matters. And so there's some people who they don't think it matters where the information comes from. But I know that matters, because that means that maybe those people didn't, fact check, or didn't verify it or whatever, because now I sent this person another link that actually says that that's a fake rumor that his family is having to address. And somehow it's gotten a hold of like one publication and it just keeps going. And this is how misinformation and disinformation circulates across the globe so quickly. And it's one of the reasons why I think governments and agencies around the world, public health agencies, had such a difficult time trying to get correct information out there, because people who were peddling in misinformation were doing a much better job at that than government agencies, for example.
Yeah, that's a good practice. Check the websites that it came from. And even then, the language models are getting really good at generating reputable looking websites too. So, and doing it en masse, right? So we need to educate people better on how to actually check sources and, verify the things that they hear.
What about when automation reaches a level when most of our interaction will be with a machine instead of a human? If you have a dispute with the machine, what kind of consideration goes into resolving that dispute?
Yeah, we're already seeing that, right? I'm sure all of you have experienced, calling a company and going through an automated system that you can only talk to, and they intentionally make it difficult to reach a human being because that's a cheaper way to handle it. And in truth, companies that have to take calls like that, probably 90% of the calls they get are just really simple things like, what are your opening hours, right? What are your, basic questions that can be answered by an automated system. So they make it, because of that, they make it harder to actually reach a human being, which makes sense financially, right, for them. But it gets more frustrating for those of us who actually need to talk to a human being about something.
All right, Denny, thanks for that. 9362626. John, can we hold on to you for a few more minutes in case people have any other questions?
Sure, I have a few more minutes.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any questions or comments? This is a wonderful, very impromptu opportunity. Thanks to Kevin for reaching out to John. Again, John Liccato, do I have the last name correct?
Yes.
Assistant professor at the University of South Florida, Computer Science and Engineering Department. Director of the Advancing Machine and Human Reasoning, founder and director of the Advancing Machine and Human Reasoning Lab. He has a PhD in computer science and well-versed in a number of areas, including artificial intelligence, human reasoning. And so if you have any questions at all, this would be your opportunity to take advantage of that. So, John, a lot of times we discuss things in the community. We have so many social issues, right? Okay, do we raise the minimum wage? Do we, change legislation in a lot of different areas? And of course, the government is always trying to get the pulse of the community and where they feel we should move in this, whatever direction, left, right, center, whatever. What is the best way for government to utilize technology, especially to gain access to people and understand what it is that people really want? Because I always find that you have a silent majority and a very vocal minority. And the vocal minority has access to social media. There's a lot of chatter. And you see them because, again, of the algorithms on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, their commentary comes up on your page over and over and over again. How do you be inclusive as a government and get the opinions of other people who might not be as active in social media, who might not be posting everything the government does? Oh, I hate this, right? Because those are the ones that you see. But normally they're a small percentage of people. So what do governments do to sort of encourage or understand what their constituents want?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about. There is a way of, I guess, like any technological advance, there's a good way to use it and there's a bad way to use it, right? And the bad way to use it would be to assume that, if you go on Twitter and you see the top ranked responses to a topic, then those are reflective of the general, will of the people, right? Because they're not. They're generally reflective of which accounts have the highest levels of interaction, or which accounts have the most followers or whatever, right? The influencers, right? But one way that we can use this technology in a really positive way is, think about if you have a debate between two people on a topic, right? And you want to write down everything they say, all the arguments they put for their different sides, and then you kind of put it into a chart where you show how the arguments connect to each other and where they agree, and and that would be great. That's a great way to reflect what two people's views are, how they differ, and how to when you make the final decision, how it actually takes into consideration the different views of those two people, right? Now, if you want to extend that from two people to an entire population, right, that's something that no human can ever do, but language models can. They can actually read a discussion that's going on between thousands and thousands of people and extract the different views that come out of them, and then actually synthesize them together, put it in a nice presentable form so that it's easier to read through, and that certain views don't get drowned out just because the loudest people, do what they do and keep posting and posting, right? So that is a positive way to use this technology to better solicit and elicit the opinions of a large population. And I think that I would love to see that happening more.
Somebody's asking if you're a robot. How do we know?
You don't. That's the thing, right?
Okay, Not So Hot has a comment. With the rise of AI, we can all expect higher unemployment and possibly the rise of crime. Good thing I do construction. I was thinking about solar panels, but I think I'll invest some steel bars. Okay, two questions I have out of this. Number one, I think that AI could be used to actually fight crime. So first question about unemployment. Is artificial intelligence more likely to create jobs versus destroy jobs? Do we even know the answer at this point?
We don't know for sure. In the short term, it looks like we're still at that cusp where the opportunities made by AI will probably create more jobs than it removes, right? But we can't put any guarantees on how long that'll be the case.
And of course, that means then that your communities and your populations have got to be ready. You can't have people unwilling to embrace technology and then talk about, artificial intelligence is going to take our jobs. We have to be at the forefront of it, which means knowing how to use it, how to create it, how to, you've got to have people who are tech savvy. So that means programs starting from, I guess, kindergarten all the way up, that encourages young people to embrace technology and to do STEM and to, get involved in engineering and all these types of classes that really puts them in the right mindset to go into positions where they're not going to fear technology. They're going to embrace it, and they're going to be part of the revolution as opposed to potentially being left behind. So I think the greatest fear is that technology and the advancements in technology leaves people behind, but that's only if you're not adequately prepared.
Yeah, that's right. And we were talking a little earlier about, system one sort of automatic reaction processes and system two, like deliberate. It's a very common system one reaction to see these sorts of changes, which might, will affect almost every job. It's hard to find a job that will not be affected by this.
Yeah.
But it's a very common reaction to just have that emotional, sort of negativity towards it, right? Change is very, very difficult for all of us, right?
Right.
But, just understand that negative reaction is natural, but, this is bigger than all of us, right? You have to adapt.
Yeah. And so the next question, which you've kind of already touched on from what Not So Hot said, Not So Hot thinks that he's safe because he's in the construction industry. And of course, we know that is not the case. So there's no industry that can sit back and say, well, I could never be replaced, or I could never have my industry impacted by advances in technology, by artificial technology, or any of that kind of stuff, right? Nobody's safe.
Yeah, I still have not found a single industry that won't be at least affected by it, in the sense that, maybe it could be positive, right? It could be that maybe to use construction as an example, maybe we figure out how to automate a lot of the checking that has to be done to make sure that, building designs are secure and all that. And that might make it so that the construction industry gets a boom of more work, right? It could be that sort of thing. But it is going to affect every industry in different ways.
This person says GPT had billions of users within months. At least 10 industries and jobs will become obsolete. I wonder what those 10 industries are.
Yeah.
And nobody's safe.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but like you said, I mean, we shouldn't focus on it necessarily being a bad thing or a negative thing, because it has the potential. It can certainly improve people's lives.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to approach this. Take a mindset where you say, look, there are some bad things that could happen, and I need to watch out for those. But I also need to keep my eyes open for the benefits that can come from this technology. And if you take that middle round and you don't, that middle position, and you just sort of look at the changes in the world with an open mind, you'll be in a safer place.
All right, folks. Well, John, thank you so much. We really embrace this opportunity and appreciate you coming in the program. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future and talk about some other aspects of technology and certainly artificial intelligence. I saw something recently, which I'll dig into here in a second with my listeners, but there was a lot of concern about hospitals in particular being very, very vulnerable with patient records and their systems not being protected. So again, I think there's a lot that has to be done around security to ensure that people who want to misuse technology, who want to misuse artificial intelligence, will actually make it as difficult as possible for them to successfully be able to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. We appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, folks. Not every day you have an expert like that that's available to us right here in the Cayman Islands. So we appreciate the questions and comments that came in. Listen, I think the way to think about this and the way to feel about this, it's uncertain without a doubt, and that makes people uneasy. But you're not going to have a choice probably, and how it's we're not the drivers of the technology, to be very, very clear. Although I suppose we could be doing more, even in this jurisdiction. We could be preparing our young people more so that they could be part of the forefront for the Caribbean. You guys saw, I think it was last week, I played a video out of Jamaica where the Prime Minister of Jamaica was talking about, trying to encourage his people, saying we're on the verge of digital currency. That's where we're going. That's what we're going to be doing. And whilst I don't think any country in the Caribbean is really ready for digital currency, I think even having the conversation, I'm going to see if I can find this again. I think that, even having the conversation is important because it starts to prepare people. If you don't even know what digital currency is, listen to this.
In the coming weeks and days, I'll be making certain announcements regarding the acceleration of Jamaica's intention to become a fully digital society. We are well on our way to this. We have established the National Identification System. We have put in place our digital currency. We have given directions to our ministries to digitalize their operations. Most of our ministries are now moving from paper-based systems to digital systems. Our military is transitioning. The society is moving very quickly, very rapidly to become digital. Our banking consumers are seeing it as well because the banks are moving very rapidly to digital. You have something now called artificial intelligence. Very soon, this position of a human being exchanging cash and so on, that is going to disappear from the banking system very soon. And you are going to have to interface with machines. I don't want it to be a scary thought, but it is a thought that we all have to embrace.
So even the Prime Minister there, Mr. Andrew Holness, obviously recognizing that people are probably a little bit afraid, and there are a lot of people who are simply not ready. How are we, our governments, our education system, preparing our people to be ready for this? It's here, and there's no undoing it. Yeah. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yes, ma'am. I say I am concerned about this thing when somebody told me yesterday because I'm not computer literate nor smartphone or nothing, and you think that they got problems in the world now. Wait till that happens, because I hear more scamming and stealing people when people got to get, because like I say, yes, especially seniors and things like that. How my credit card get messed up when the pandemic that I had to give people your stuff to pay things about online or whatever for you, and then they keep my number and scam it and overdraft my credit card and stuff. So this is a serious thing. And I hear you saying about how keep your money under your mattress. I got put mine in a hole because not everybody, and I don't care I have a banger. All I want a phone for is if I fall down on the road and I can run off breath in my body to call somebody to help me if I can be saved, or if I gotta go to hell or whatever we are going. But this world is in a big mess. And if you think that you're hearing anything now, wait till all of that come in and about digital cash and all kind of things. About I heard about they want to put chip in your hand and all kind of things. But you think we got problem now? Wait till all of that come in effect. Then you're gonna see confusion and stress and people killing people over stuff.
All right. Thank you, caller. Appreciate it.
That's my opinion, and I think it is a serious thing. So.
Okay. All right, my dear. Thank you. I'm not sure we started to get some feedback at the end there, but I mean, I think one of the things that we definitely have to be mindful of with technology is, again, even the misinformation surrounding it can be worse than the technology itself. So we've got to make sure that the messaging is right, and that people, again, it comes down to education, that people are actually being educated of what it can do and what it can't do. And, there always has to be the experts, I think, who are interphasing with the average person to kind of explain some of the implications of the technology to them. Siobhan says everything has good and bad. Absolutely. Listen, because of I mean, you can think of technology in so many different ways, right? But let's just think of the world of medicine. People now have the ability to do body scans that can find cancers and all sorts of things wrong with them. They've got, microscopic surgeries that can be done. They're less invasive. You're more likely to recover and be able to live. They've got heart procedures that can be done through laparoscopic surgery. Lasers helping cancer patients, and oncology treatments have advanced. I mean, technology, just if we were just to focus on the medical profession, has been amazing and has allowed people to live longer, live a better quality of life. And so when you think about all the good that has come out of that, you certainly can understand the implications of good across all sectors. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, morning, Sunday. I actually quite excited about all this whole entire artificial intelligence, because really and truly we've been warned about it from a long time. I don't know if anybody remember the year 2000, the new millennium, right? And then when they were talking about the Y2K bug, everybody thought it was like a bunch of flies that were gonna be running around buzzing and start biting people to death. That already done happening here in Cayman. I mean, we already complaining about mosquitoes, but the thing is about it, right? The technology is starting to become very intelligent. It's like it's becoming to learn the human mind. It's learning the human mind right now as is. It's like a baby steps. And then in the next 10 years, it could just become a 10-year-old, if you understand what I mean. And then it gets really confusing from there, because we don't know if it's going to just become independent. Because like how we can think independently, and then you expect a lot of people to become dependent on you, and you don't become dependent. then what you gonna do about the person that is just, I mean, you understand where I'm going, right? So it's either gonna be a war on intelligence or we're just gonna keep it in control. It's just like taking care of a dog. If you can't take care of a dog, you imagine if it get away and get in the wrong hands.
Alrighty.
So that's my thought about it. But I like the entire robotic feel. Like, you know, I watch these videos with the robots. They are dependent on the software, but the software is controlled by the people. So then it tells them what. So then it comes to a control with the industrial part. But the whole entire computer learning your language and all those things, Sandra, that is very dangerous. That's becoming almost like a weapon, because then you can go and rig elections and all those stuff with that. I just saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, folks. I mean, the potential is there for a lot to happen, and it's also, I think, possible to, you know, Alejandro just talked about rigging elections and stuff like that. It's also possible to use technology to ensure that that type of stuff doesn't happen, because, you know, the manual systems weren't any better or safer necessarily, right? So technology can help us catch crooks and catch scammers and so on. I'll give you an example of how technology is amazing. So over the weekend, let's look at policing, crime fighting, right? There is a show on, I think it was Investigation Discovery that I was watching on Saturday, where this is a team, I forget what they're called now, but they're a team that work together to catch child predators, right? And they actually set up people who pretend to be teenagers, underage kids and stuff, and they're in, you know, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, social settings, because that's where the predators are looking for victims. And it's just so amazing. I'm trying to see if I can find the name of this again, because it's a really, really interesting show. I just was flipping through and kind of inadvertently came across it. And I thought, oh, wow, you guys know I have a passion for protecting children. And so, you know, for me, this was very, very interesting to see how the technology is actually there and how it's being utilized. So anyway, this guy had been in contact with what he thought was a 12-year-old, right? And he'd been talking to her, wanting to meet up. Sometimes they do even meet. They try not to use children as decoys like real children, but they'll use petite looking adults. So that the kid might say, oh, you know, I'm going to be at the park at this hour or whatever. Because then these pedophiles and child predators will come and like scope out and get a glimpse of the child, right? They may not at that point be wanting to have physical contact yet, but that's where it's going. So it's like a grooming process. So it's like a bait and trap situation, right? So this professional team, one of the things that they have to do is figure out who these people are, because they have fake accounts. You know, they tend to have multiple social media accounts and they're hiding on their social media, whatever. And so one guy, they had his Snapchat information. He was messaging at what he thought was a 12-year-old child. And, you know, human beings, like John was just saying, human beings tend to be creatures of habit. So whether you have a fake account or whatever, there's certain words that you use. There's a certain way that you write, certain way you say things, right? So you can tell when someone, even when they're trying to be anonymous, you can tell when someone has actually written something. So this guy was in contact with this underage girl, and now the team was trying to identify who he really was. So they looked at his account. He didn't have much up, didn't really have many photos or anything, really bare bones social media account, but they kept digging, and there was something that they saw that led them to like another account, right? So something where he was like, I think he might have sent her a photo or something. It was like from a wedding. And then they were able to like match the date based on the venue of who would have gotten married that day. And anyway, through like just these nuggets, like it's almost like Hansel and Gretel, right? So he leaves a trail. This is the point they're making. he's leaving both a digital trail. So once they can get a hold of his devices, they can definitely confirm that it's him. But on the front end of it, they don't have his devices yet. So when they're trying to figure out who these people are, there are other trails that you're leaving behind, the way that you write, the way that you say things, the way, And so he was leaving all these little nuggets, obviously trying to cover his steps. And what really led them back to him was this wedding. Somehow he had shared like a wedding photo or something. And they were looking at the background using technology. Tell us where this background is. They were able to identify the wedding venue. Then they could see that that's when he had gotten married. And he was there, and they found out exactly who he was. Now, here's the shocker. This is the part that was like, OMG, jaw-dropping. I was actually trying to look on WhatsApp on the computer, but it logged me out. So I'll have to grab that phone. But here's the most serious part. This guy worked with a government agency that their job is to protect children. Everyone in the room, when they found out who he was and where he worked, they were like, oh my God. Like, say it would be the equivalent of DCFS or whatever, Child Protective Services, but he actually has access to children and to vulnerable children at that. One of the researchers, one of the detectives in the room, she started crying because she's like, oh my God. You know that this means that this guy could have had access to hundreds of kids. This isn't his first victim. This wouldn't be the first time that he's done this. Like, what the hell? And it was just so shocking. So they expedited getting him. Not to say they moved slowly on any of these guys, but because of his position, they were like, we have got to arrest this guy immediately. Issue a warrant for his arrest. Get him off the streets. And when they took him in, it was very, very interesting, of course, to see his body language. And he sat down and they started questioning him and said to him, do you know this account? And of course, at that point, he knew he was caught red-handed. And he said, yeah. And the male interviewer said, is this the sort of thing you do all the time? And he paused. And he said, well, I have a problem. I was like, no shit, Sherlock. Really? You got a problem, you think? Trying to have sex with a 12-year-old? Yeah, you got a problem. Now you got an even bigger problem because thank God you've been caught. And the detective didn't even have to say anything. And then the next thing he said was, yeah, and especially with what my job is. I know how this looks. Because of the position that I'm in, I should know better. But I have a problem. I can't help myself. I was just like, wow, this dude. But technology helped them catch this guy. And believe me, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, the technology didn't exist, right? To help track down predators like this in the same way. Now, understand what I'm saying, because you have to be very, very clear. They're using technology to access victims. That maybe 20 years ago, there was no social media, so it was a lot harder to so seamlessly access victims. But at the same time, the same technology that they're using to try to get to victims, the policing agencies is using the similar or same technology to get to them as predators and to set up these fictitious accounts where they're pretending to be teens to try to bait in some of these predators to get them off the streets and away from real children. So technology, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, it can be used for both. You're never going to stop a criminal. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, right? Talking about a thief. Someone that I know had someone steal from their business. And I said, the funny thing is, if someone is dishonest and they're a thief, you can't stop them, except maybe incarcerating them, right? But when they're in your business, they have intentions to steal from you, they're going to find a way. You can have all the camera systems in the world, all the technology and processes, or QuickBooks has a trail, what's it called? Audit trail. So it knows when people are doing transactions. It will pick up on patterns of behavior that if you have a forensic accountant looking at your books will tell you, Why is this person always doing this transaction quickly followed by this transaction? This puts me in high alert that something is going on here. So the technology will help you eventually catch the person. But that person is sitting there hyper focused on how to steal from you. That's all they're doing. You're busy running your business and doing other things. But if that is their sole focus and that's their energy, there's probably very little that you can do to stop them or prevent it from happening. You'll be able to catch them because the technology is going to help you catch them and get a successful prosecution and whatever. But to stop them, not likely you'll be able to stop a thief. So whether it's a brick and mortar situation where they're going to sit down at Scotiabank, and we've heard some cases over the years, right? Y'all talking about, oh, well, technology, they're going to be stealing people money. Listen, think about 25, 30 years ago. You heard people, managers at different banks across this island. I've heard some horrible stories. Stealing money where supposedly the bank stopped counting in the six figures, high six figures, and the bank just stopped counting because they couldn't figure out how much money is really gone. Yeah? And that was happening then. So now they're doing it. And I've always found it interesting, especially with banking, because I've always said the banks that were getting victimized were the least technological banks, in my opinion. And because they didn't have the technology in place, it was easier for people to get away with it for a longer period of time. Now you always get caught, you know. It's only a question of when. Y'all know the Caribbean saying you can do what you want, but not for as long as you want. So there will always be a day of reckoning. One day they're going to slip up. One day they're going to take $1 too much. A thief never seems to be able to stop, right? So they can steal $10,000 and that's not enough. They're going to just keep going and keep going and going. So one day they will get caught, without a doubt. Again, patterns of human behavior. They're going to get caught. But what you try to do with technology is catch them as quickly as possible to try to mitigate your losses. So the first item they steal or the first time they steal, if you could ideally catch them then, you're going to save yourself, like all these institutions in Jamaica talking about, poor seniors and what's his name? What's the athletic, Usain Bolt and all these people losing millions of dollars because these institutions have thieves within. How was it not caught is the question. What kind of technology and oversight do they have at these institutions? Something should have alerted them if they have proper processes that something was wrong. And the fact that they didn't, and that one singular person could be doing withdrawals and certain types of transactions that are then not flagged or brought to the attention of other people in an institution means to me that their technology actually isn't where it should be. So even when I listen to the Prime Minister of Jamaica talking about digital currency, and this is the direction that we're going, and the seniors have to get ready and people in the community have to get ready, I question, how ready is the government? How ready is private sector? How ready are the banks and other institutions to ensure that they can protect the assets and information of their clients and their customers? Let me see if I can find, by way of example, this whole hospital thing that I was telling you guys about, because this was something that recently I was, having a look at. And it's hospitals who are vulnerable and they've had a number of security breaches, particularly during the lockdown, right? People just, I guess they had a lot of time on their hands too, trying to get access to stuff. And there were some hospitals that actually had to shut down. There's one, I was shocked to see the story about a guy who, let me see if I can find the video. He actually had to stop his cancer treatment. Listen to how crazy this is. He could no longer do his cancer treatment because the hospital had a security breach and had to shut down the administration and administering of treatments like cancers. And he had a very aggressive cancer, right? it's these types of things, folks, that can certainly be extremely concerning, because this is life and death. This is your life on the line. And a lot of hospitals are not ready. They got terrorists all over the place. China, Russia, the US, probably even the Caribbean, who are trying to commandeer hospital systems. Sometimes it's just the money that they're trying to get to. Like they want you to pay them. What they do is they pay you you have to pay a ransom to get them to release your data and give you back control of your system. Other times it is I'm trying to find this for you to see if I can share this. Other times it's some other nefarious reason why they might be trying to commandeer people's information and data. So according to the HIPAA journal, there have been 4,419 healthcare data breaches between 2009 and 2021. So this constitutes over 314 million healthcare records that were exposed. According to an IBM expert, a data breach in the healthcare sector has cost $10.10 million per incident. You do the math. Every time there's a data breach in the healthcare sector, the individual data breach is costing over $10 million. And there was over 4,419 between 2009 and 221. So somebody multiply 4,419 times 10 million, and you tell me what the figure is. It's a lot of money. And it's not just money that we're concerned about. It's people's lives. So everything from third-party breaches in the cloud, what they call Internet of Things, IoT attacks. So apparently 53% of IoT devices in a hospital are at risk of being attacked. The most vulnerable of these devices is the IV pump, which accounts for about 38% of a typical hospital's IoT footprint. The second most vulnerable is the voice over protocol, which accounts for 50% of IoT devices in a hospital. So these are cybersecurity risks within hospitals, right? Insecure passwords. So, when your doctor sits down at the computer, everything's computerized now, all your information's there. They type in username, password. Most of them have insecure passwords. And that means that people, hackers in particular, can get really easy access to your systems. Anybody in Cayman talking about this? Any of our hospitals? How are they securing your data? Right? How are they protecting it from hackers? It is a question, and it's an area of concern around the world. And of course, I know that a lot of times Cayman is a little bit behind, a lot behind, let's be honest, when it comes to these types of things. So let me pull up a video here, because I do want you guys to be aware that the rest of the world, the US in particular, whether it's ransomware attacks or other things, are very much concerned, and they understand the vulnerabilities that exist. What are we doing? No one's even talking about it. Do we have legislation in place to deal with these types of things? Hospitals, anybody checking to see what systems they have in place and how well they work? Who's future-proofing against these types of attacks? These are just questions that I'm throwing out there. I don't have the answers. I only have the questions. And so I don't know who has the answers. I don't even know, like I said, if anybody's honestly thinking about it. But some of these breaches can be extremely serious and detrimental. All right, let's watch a few videos in relation to this.
Your worst fear as a parent is watching your child in pain and you can't do anything. Like, I literally could do nothing.
Kelly Parsi brought her 3-year-old son, Jay, into Mercy One Children's Hospital in Des Moines, Iowa, in early October, when he became dehydrated a few days after tonsil surgery.
We got to the hospital. We went in for fluids.
Jay was also given pain medication. The problem was, according to Kelly, the hospital told her their systems had gone down and they had mistakenly given her son 5 times the normal dosage for a 3-year-old.
When someone tells you, hey, we just overdosed your son, like, your heart stops.
More than a week after the system went down, the hospital's parent company, Common Spirit Health, admitted it had been hit with a ransomware attack.
Because of the cyber attack, my son was overdosed on pain medicine.
The attack on Common Spirit, the 4th largest hospital chain in the country, delayed some patients' care at its hospitals for weeks. Mercy One declined to comment about the Parsis, citing patient confidentiality, but told NBC News in a statement that it's committed to providing safe, quality care for all patients.
At this point, the cyber attacks against U.S. healthcare and ransomware attacks are at an unprecedented level.
According to the independent International Cyber Peace Institute, there were 103 ransomware attacks against hospitals and other patient care facilities last year, 60 more than the year before.
Has the American healthcare system ever faced an external threat like this?
In terms of cyber, I would say no.
Ransomware attacks often lock up computers and freeze records, taking away crucial medical tools.
What is it like for healthcare practitioners when they're hit with ransomware?
I can only use the word devastating for physicians when this happens.
American Medical Association President Dr. Jack Resnick has worked in hospitals for 21 years.
Not being able to run our clinics or our hospitals while we negotiate to get data back and to get our systems back up and running really is a threat to patient safety.
Hospitals that can afford it are investing in additional cybersecurity. And while Kelly's son recovered, victims of ransomware attacks are often left without answers or recourse.
What would you say to the hackers who attacked this hospital?
I would say that you're going to kill somebody. You are absolutely going to kill somebody because you have taken away the ability for the doctors and nurses to access records and medical information and help people that are in need.
And Kevin Collier's with us now. So what are hospitals doing to try to keep people safe? It's really scary.
Well, there are a number of federal programs that are available to hospitals. The White House is taking several initiatives to step it up. At the same time, there's no one that realistically thinks this will substantially go down in the near future.
All right, Kevin, great reporting.
All right, so what programs do we have in place to assist hospitals if they need it from a policy and governmental perspective here in the Cayman Islands?
Attacks have caused costly breaches of personal data and disruption of critical systems like oil pipelines and mass transit, but they are also increasingly a matter of life and death. So in tonight's Prime Focus, we examine why America's hospitals are becoming a top target for hackers and how they're already having a dramatic impact on our health care. Tonight, our Devin Dwyer has some new research and what can be done about these attacks.
Squeeze my hand, sir, best you can. Let's get him on the vent. Let's call ICU. I'm just trying to think.
In the emergency room, minutes and seconds can decide life or death.
Starting chest compressions.
Simulations like this one train doctors to respond quickly to the unexpected.
Charging. Shocking.
We were invited to watch Dr. Arman Hussein, a second-year resident, practice his skills when suddenly
there's something happening with our IT systems right now.
A mock cyber attack locks down his computer as he's treating patients in crisis.
Our monitor is down.
Dr. Hussein is calm under pressure, but instantly without critical tools.
I don't even know where the paper charts are.
Like electronic patient records, test results, and contact with other departments and hospitals.
How disruptive was it to lose all the technology that's connected to the network?
Pretty disruptive, just because you need to have information fast, and not having information is probably the most panic-inducing thing. It's like I can't make a decision if I don't have information.
It happened in real life 3 years ago, just as the pandemic was taking hold. Cyber criminals targeted the University of Vermont Hospital Network.
It was terrible.
Dr. Stephen Leffler, the hospital's president, was seeing patients in Burlington that day.
My email stopped working, which is odd, but not, it does happen once in a while. Was a cyber attack even in your consciousness? No, I didn't even think that was a possibility. It was challenging because our phones weren't working. We actually sent some staff to Best Buy to buy walkie-talkies. And we started switching over to our paper systems. I got a call from our IT leader. He said, every server that we have has been infected.
Those servers were immediately taken offline. Loeffler says no patient information was leaked, but that the impact on patient care was substantial.
There were people that were scheduled for staging cancer operations, and we had to make a decision, should we do it? And we did them when it was appropriate. Some we were able to delay.
The crisis stretched for 28 days. 1,300 hospital servers and 5,000 computers had to be wiped, a job so big the governor called in the National Guard. All told, it cost the hospital more than $50 million, an expense some experts say inevitably drives up the cost of care.
We've had 3 years of COVID. This was much harder by a factor of 10.
Harder than COVID?
Much harder for us.
Very, very lucky.
Jess Krause and his wife Kara were UVM patients at the time and lived through it.
I had been diagnosed in early September with stage 3 colorectal cancer. You really don't know if you're going to live or die at that point.
Just as his doctors began an aggressive radiation and chemo plan, Krause was told it all had to be put on hold indefinitely.
I got a call that day saying, yeah, we don't come. You know, we're figuring it out.
We were like, what? Like, this is really critical life or death treatment, radiation. And it was very timely because Jess's tumor was quite large.
How many appointments did you have to miss? Do you remember?
Probably about a week.
We were afraid. We weren't sure if that would affect the outcome. Again, the tumor, would it start growing back within that week?
We ready? Come on, bud.
Today, Krause's cancer is in remission, and he's sounding the alarm about the impact of cyber attacks on patients.
In the grand scheme of things, you know, it's easy to look at it now and say, okay, yeah, you know, it was a week delay and it didn't really impact it. I hope that it's been a lesson learned to hospitals. You need to have systems in place to be able to immediately pivot if you need to.
Research shows cyber attacks on hospitals, once thought to be most damaging to patient privacy, are potentially endangering American lives.
A cyber attack on a hospital is not an economic crime. It is not a victimless crime. These are direct threats to patient safety and threats to life crimes.
The number of cyber attacks on U.S. hospitals each year has doubled since 2016, from 43 incidents to 91 in 2021. Experts say healthcare networks are ripe targets because they're most vulnerable and because hospitals are most likely to pay a ransom.
And our IT experts knew, as soon as they looked at what happened, that a ransom would not have restored our system. And so we did not pay the ransom. We did not contact the people who did it.
A new government analysis finds nearly all hospitals are operating with critical systems or software with known vulnerabilities. But only half, according to the report, have a plan to address them.
What's the biggest lesson you think other hospitals in America need to take from what happened at UVM?
It can happen to you. Even when you think it's impossible, it can happen. And it affects everything you do in the ways you provide care for your patients.
U.S. public health officials say cyber attacks are the single largest threat to America's hospitals, deserving immediate attention. The average incident disrupting patient care for 19 days and stretching far beyond an individual hospital.
Our studies showed the secondary effects, these blast radius ecosystem effects, and saw increased emergency department patients. They saw way more patients than they normally do. If you're in the waiting room, you waited longer at hospitals next to ransomware attacks because there were so many more patients. So way more ambulances. One's a trauma center, one's a stroke center. When those types of specialty centers go down, those patients go to the periphery.
So a cyber attack on one hospital has a much broader effect.
Huge effect in the entire region.
I was just like, all right, I'm not going to use that. We'll just go to manual everything.
Dr. Hussein says more practice without computers is urgently needed.
Strong work, guys. Done. Way go, team.
But experts say hospital administrators also need to beef up their defenses. Josh Corman, a top U.S. cybersecurity expert who helped design the simulation we saw, says a mindset shift is needed and fast.
We're just not trained for this. We're not prepared for this. We implicitly trust and depend on these technologies. And when they're not available, bad things can happen.
If you can greatly reduce or eliminate the impact by having multiple systems in place, then that seems like it would be an important step forward.
I feel like we're some of the lucky ones that we had an amazing doctor who went above and beyond. But I think system improvements to communication need to happen, but especially now.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks.
All right, folks. So again, really, really serious concern. It's not just about, somebody might steal your data or whatever. It means you might not be able to get treatment at a hospital for something like cancer or stroke patients. This is so incredibly concerning. Again, I've heard nobody here in this jurisdiction certainly say that it's on their radar at all. And, if you don't think that Cayman is vulnerable to these types of attacks, trust me, think again. We only have 3 hospitals on this island. Imagine if someone had the capability to attack all 3 hospitals at once. What would be the plan? What would happen? All right, folks. Alejandro says he prefers to believe in conspiracies. Oh, good grief. So Siobhan says you can only protect from hackers to an extent, because all they need is a backdoor to the system to get in. Well, IT experts, that's what they're there for, is to make sure there is no backdoor to get into, or the backdoor has 50 locks on it. Folks, we have to wake up and we have to educate our people, not just about what the vulnerabilities are, but about the fact that we need to be talking about it and we need to be having systems in place. Denny?
I have a concern about the fascination with the world wanting to have everything connected to the internet. Do I really need my air conditioner connected to the internet? Do I really need my microwave connected to the internet? Do I really need a fridge to tell me I'm out of eggs? No, I don't. I remember the time when people were saying, wow, they could open your garage door, right? Those things were made without any encryption at all. And when they finally put encryption in them, it was so poorly implemented, it was laughable. Now criminals have escalated to the point where you could have your fabulous high-tech key inside your house, and if it's close enough to the exterior of the house, they can emulate your key and start your car and drive off without your key, just using devices. Mm-hmm. And so I think some of this is self-inflicted. I understand that, like, if you're an internet company, you might want to connectivity is what's on your mind. But I don't think that people should be connecting more than they need to. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, I think about you telling us this morning about your QuickBooks. Mm-hmm. What happens if we go offline for an extended period of time? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, so the companies, as far as they're concerned, well, you're just one customer. But there are pacemakers, so people are being kept alive by devices in their chests. What's the security of those devices? Mm. I know when they first came out, they had no security. Not sure what they're doing at the moment. Mm. But the person, you see, the problem is that when we think about, like when you were talking earlier about how the same technology is used against a criminal. Yeah, if the person is in that scenario. But what if the person just wants to harm you one time off, as in, taking control of your electric car and you go off the cliff? I mean, they don't have to do it again. Mm-hmm. There's no device to trace. They did their job. They got their payment. It's done. Do I need my car connected to the internet? No, I don't. I know it sounds cute. Sounds really exciting. I know it gives options, but do I need a car connected? I do not. And I think we need to really stop and think about how we are making ourselves excessively vulnerable.
So
to
your
people
solution
who
then is simply don't use connectivity technology as opposed
no,
to.
no, no, no. Let me give you an example. An example. If I think about the story that you showed with the hospital, right? Um, those devices are probably connected to the internet for the ease of updating the firmware and software that may be on those devices. If you're talking about something that's in a life-threatening situation, I would have a policy that those devices have to be updated using a different means and not have them connected to the internet continuously. You could have a schedule of maintenance and perhaps the slowest times to do your maintenance, and say in a hospital, for example, but having everything connected to the internet where it's just open for whoever wants to approach those devices. I'm not saying that they're leaving them open for that purpose, but you have to understand that anything that's facing the internet is facing the internet. And the probability that someone will try to break in for bad reasons can, and do happen. So I'm not against technology. I'm just saying that I don't need my microwave connected to the internet. I don't. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
But what I want the monitors for the hospitals that's doing heart surgery on me at the time they're doing heart surgery to be disconnected. Yeah, sure.
All righty.
Take care.
So 936-2626. I mean, that's one possibility, I suppose. I mean, you have to consider the advantages, I suppose, versus the disadvantages, right? I mean, most people are connected to the internet because they're receiving, even if it's a perceived advantage, they think that it's a significant advantage to them. You know, take, for example, the heart surgery. If you're in the middle of heart surgery and the collaboration is between someone all the way in India and a team here who's trying to save your life, and they have to be connected in order to have that conference call or for them to be in on the procedure as though they're literally in the operating room. During a time like COVID, those people couldn't fly to Cayman to help you. So telemedicine became a really, really big thing, right? People being able, your physician being able to pick up the phone and talk to you on the phone and having access that way. So I could see where more and more it's going to be challenging to not be connected. Denny. Yes, Denny.
That's an easy one to solve. The device that you're doing the collaboration with is connected, but not the monitors that you rely on receiving feedback from my body. That monitor, that computer, those group of computers that you're relying on to get that information shouldn't be connected. But you could have a separate device in which you're doing this collaboration. So
I mean,
don't see that?
I don't know enough about that procedure to know what the connected devices are and why they need them connected. There might be a team overseas who's actually sitting down monitoring that bit of the information, and so they need to have access to it.
But you know what the beautiful
Uh-huh.
you know what the beautiful thing about CMR is? We can ask Health City one day.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely.
All right, take
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that Health City is even doing that procedure in that way. So this is very much a hypothetical. But I do know that there are facilities all over the world that are carrying out procedures with multiple experts in different locations. And the only way that that's possible is the connectivity amongst the parties. What was interesting in the video that we saw there, where the hospital made a determination that paying the ransom didn't make any sense because they weren't even going to be able to really get their information or their data back. It's interesting. One time We had a similar ransomware breach. A lot of companies in Cayman, in fact, have. Good morning, caller.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the program.
Good morning, Miss Sandra.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Sandra. I sent you a picture.
Sorry.
Last night I went to Salty's and have dinner, and I must have dropped my bracelet in between from Salty's to the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Because I was wearing it, and I went in the car, and after there I just went to drop my friend, and then I came home to West B. I never stopped nowhere. I didn't come out of the car, and I looked for it in the car. I even looked for it in the stairs, and nothing. Everybody was looking for it for me at home, so I had to must be drop it there because we was making like a little phone joke and stuff like that. And when I put my hand over, that's maybe when I dropped the bracelet.
Okay.
I was well. Everybody of my phone, they're telling me, "Oh, send it to me, Sandra. Send it to me, Sandra." So I decided to call you and see if you could have helped me out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll post it up for you. So you were at
Thank you, Miss Sandra.
Salty's last night.
Yes,
Okay.
Miss Sandra.
No, you were at Salty's
I
last
was
night.
at Salty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No problem. We'll post it up for you.
And then after when I finish work, about 2 o'clock, I will go in Salty's. Maybe I could have just fallen in the table, under the table, you know. It could have been that, but I know it was in between Salty's and the parking lot that I lost it.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Miss Sandra.
You're welcome, my dear. Thanks too.
Have a nice weekend.
You
Okay,
too.
bye.
All right, my dear. So, folks, we have the picture of the bracelet here on the screen, thanks to modern technology. If anyone has seen this bracelet, maybe it's in the parking lot. Hopefully, it doesn't get ran over by a car. Please keep an eye out. Maybe the staff at Salty's, if anybody there is listening to the program, they can keep an eye out and see if it dropped anywhere. Cleaners and so on sometimes might, find these little types of things. You never know. So keep an eye out if you're in the parking lot or the area there where Salty's is located. I hope she finds it. Looks like quite a nice bracelet. So yeah, I mean, Denver says they have a private plane that if the pilot has a heart attack, the passenger owner can press a button in the cockpit in front of the pilot that will land the plane at the nearest airport. Think about that. Okay. All right, Siobhan, have a good weekend. Jackie says, soon come Fahrenheit 451. If you never read the book, put it on your list. Well, listen, I think that, when we were talking to John earlier, the expert, it's interesting how the human mind has always been fearful of technology. I mean, always. Frankenstein, right? That one day we'll be able to stitch people together and make a man, and then he's going to go crazy and he's going to be a murderous person and a monster and all this kind of stuff, right? Frankenstein was written when? Who was? Let me see how long ago that was. I think it's quite a while. Hold on. So, if nothing else, this is by Mary Shelley, the novel. It was written in 1818. If nothing else, the human mind has always been very, very creative and have been able to conceptualize worst case scenarios and situations where technology goes wrong. So imagine in the early 1800s, this novel and Mary Shelley came up with this concept that one day medicine and a mad scientist is going to be able to put a person together from the body parts of other people. I mean, think about it. Back then, they probably didn't even have transplant surgeries and stuff. They were maybe on the cusp of, I don't even know what kind of medicine was around back in the early 1800s, but they understood that maybe one day it's going to be possible to do this. And then this is the perceived downside. Same thing with artificial intelligence. For years, there have been movies about, the robot that goes berserk and goes crazy. That smart house, there was a horror movie about that. The smart house that commandeers and takes over from you, right? So your smart house is smarter than you, and it's locked you inside the house, and you can't get in, and you're hostage. And we've seen all these sorts of things. The robotic dog that goes berserk on the owner. So I think the truth of the matter is the human brain has always been afraid of technology and afraid of advances. The runaway car, self-driving car. Oh no, not that. Planes falling out of the sky. Someone mentioned earlier about the 2000. Remember how everything in the year 2000 was supposed to go berserk because there was some flaw in computers with like the time or whatever. And what exactly was the issue? I can't even remember. And oh my gosh, your computer is going to go crazy, and they're going to do this and going to do that. And it was such a let down. Not much of anything happened. What did they have it coined again? Oh gosh, somebody help me out here. Oh my gosh, was that really 23 years ago? Are you guys kidding me? Was it that long? What was it called again though? Millennia something. I see now I can't even remember because it was a big to do and then nothing happened. Oh gosh, what was it? There was some I can't Y2K bug. Yeah. You guys remember the whole Y2K situation? So this was a flaw faced by computer programmers and users all over the world that on January the 1st, 2000, oh gosh, I had to go all the way back to National Geographic to remember what the Y2K bug was. That computer problems would be caused when dealing with dates beyond December 31st, 1999. Do you guys remember this? Yeah. Because complex computer programs are first written in the 1960s, engineers used a 2-digit code for the year, leaving out the 19. And of course, as the year 2000 approached, many believed that the systems would not interpret the 00 correctly, therefore causing a major glitch in the system. Y2K. And as it turned out, it wasn't much of a problem at all. Barely a blip, as far as I can recall. I don't remember anything major happening. Yeah? Anybody else remembers this? So I think what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes we're fearful of things, and the fear isn't being generated by real logical reasons. Like the fear is unwarranted, if that makes any sense. Right? I don't know. Marshall says the human brain will always be afraid of change. Thank you, Mel. She was remembering it was Y2K. Denver says, yes, computers were supposed to be shutting down. It's always been here. I just told you about it. I don't know, Y2K bug. So, people were all over the place with that. Somebody said earlier they don't need a self-driving car. But, I tell you now, these cars are so fancy. They have braking capability. Even my car now, it wants to brake and steer and do all kind of stuff. It's not self-driving. But it senses when I'm too close to a car and I've not started to brake. And so it has like a brake feature where it will brake for me. And the first time it does it, it's like really super weird because you're like, what the heck are you doing? And you're in your brain, the human brain, which isn't as reliable as we think. I'm like, oh, I got plenty of time to brake. Yeah, that's why we're having all these accidents around here and why we're running into each other, because we always think we got plenty of time to brake. The computer and the sensors in the computer are recognizing that I should have started slowing down and braking long before. So it's going to brake for me. Now there are overrides on all of these things. You can turn them off, of course. My last car also had this lean thing. That was the Mercedes. It had this lean situation where it would literally start pulling the vehicle in a different direction because it was saying that I wasn't straight in my lane. And I was like, what? Yeah. It's like, you're not driving straight, lady. Let me do it for you. That could save somebody's life, though, when you think about it. I love technology. I think everything has to obviously be approached with a degree of knowledge and information. Garrett says cars are controlled by computers already. Well, most of it is. Your car is telling you when you need an oil change. You no longer have to remember or write it on a sticker in the car because it's going to pop up and say oil change in 500 miles. My car was telling me that for that was a 5-year-old car, 6-year-old car. Type A maintenance and another 1,000 miles. Call and book the appointment. Aliana says, I remember getting dressed up and going to the Truman Bodden Sports Complex for the Y2K Doomsday event. There was a Doomsday event at Truman Bodden. What was the event? That you must have got a special invite, honey, Chia, because I didn't get invited to that party. I don't remember anything about it. What was it? All right. Lots to think about. That's very interesting. Oh, yes, Alejandro. Hello?
Yeah, Sunday, you really don't remember these things.
Which things?
The Y2K bug was predicted in the new year 2000. So what I mean is it's a New Year's Eve party.
It wasn't about a bug. I
These
just said
are
I don't know anything about a party. I didn't get invited to the party.
no,
then.
but it was like a technology doomsday, like the end of the world kind of thing. Robots will take over the world. We start hearing about people.
I remember the hoopla around it. I'm just saying somebody had a party at Truman Bodden. I obviously did not get the invite.
Well, they had parties all over the place. Remember, it's New Year's Eve, like Calico Jacks, Aqua Beach, or all these different places would have their own parties. But it was a New Year's Eve event. This is the thing. Like, we make a big deal about everything. Like, we hear about the end of the world, it's going to be a tsunami or a big earthquake in 2012 and 2010 and these type of things. And then it just brings on events. It's a promotion. Hollywood makes these things a big deal. And I guess it's just a celebratory thing. You just, go with the flow. There's nothing going to happen. I mean, if they did want to promote the end of the world, I'm pretty sure nobody would want to be saving money right now, would they?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? All right.
All right. Yeah, I just don't remember any parties, but I guess, I probably was home for New Year's Eve that year. Someone said, good morning, Sam. Lovely. God bless you and your family profusely. You are most welcome. And thanks always as well for your support to us all. You are simply the best. Aw, thank you so much. Appreciate it. This person says, I don't have enough credit to call in. If the speaker has advice for what kind of careers young people should consider that are less likely to be automated in the future. Well, I think he answered the question when he said there is no such thing. All industries will be impacted in one way or the other. But let me ask you a question. And don't forget, you don't need credit to call in because you can always call in WhatsApp for free. Alejandro calls in WhatsApp. So listen, I a little bit how can I say this? I'm a little bit concerned that would be the question that we're asking. Because what we're saying is we don't want our kids to be ready for what the future holds. We want them to hold their position and try to find careers where they think technology is not going to be that big of a deal. That's not going to happen. But that demonstrates a resistance to technology that I think we should be concerned about. Even construction management in 10 years will not be what it is today. And if you're not with the times and you're not keeping up, there will be a lot of advances that you will simply not be able to take advantage of. I've mentioned this before, that a lot of small, even sometimes medium-sized businesses struggle with the ability to get jobs and communicate with customers and provide good customer service, not because they're not good at their core business, but because they don't get the other elements that are now required of business owners. So let me give you an example. You have a construction guy who is a good masonry, he's good at building a house, but he can't put together a good forecasting budget for you on what your house is going to cost. And I see, especially people in the construction industry, run afoul of this all the time. It's one of the reasons why they run over budget. They quote you one price, you go to the bank, say, okay, I'm going to need, $200,000 to build my house, and you come out spending $400,000. That's because that person doesn't understand the fundamentals of costing, right? Now, if it's a small job, it might not be a big deal. But when you're talking about an entire house and an overrun of those types of things, you will find that those types of people who can't get with the technology that allows them to be more accurate, who can't send out proper invoicing because they refuse to learn how to use a system like QuickBooks, or they're using it incorrectly, they're going to frustrate more savvy clientele, right? And so much so where they might actually be pushing themselves completely out of the market. So what business in this day and age can survive with zero or no technology? We've even talked about the simple things. You want to order wellies for lunch. You know not to call them between 12 and 2:30 because you're not going to reach anybody on the phone. I've told you, I've given the managers and the owners of Welly what's a very simple technological solution that would eliminate that problem completely. They don't implement it. One of these days, their inability to implement that, or their desire not to implement it, might really outweigh the fact that people are still willing to walk through the door and stand in line for half an hour to pick up a lunch. So who's getting with the system? Who's implementing online ordering systems where you can just go and order? You can WhatsApp order your lunch. You can, you've got to know who your clientele is, what their expectations are, what they're using, what technology they're using. And you have to be prepared to meet them where they are, or potentially get left behind. A lot of companies know that they need social media, right? They know it's a necessity, but they don't know how to use it. And they don't want to budget to hire somebody who knows how to use it and who provides that service and knows what they're doing. Most of these construction guys need a professional management company that can offer marketing help, accounting services, reception services, responding to emails. So yeah, they might not have those skills, but if you can pay somebody else to provide the service and you focus on your core business, right? So you build a house, but someone who understands your industry enough to be able to help you with invoicing and quotations and, bidding on jobs if you need to. Otherwise, you will eventually be left behind. That's just how it is, right? Technology is driving every single industry in the world. Mr. Goodluck said, did CMR get an invite from the Minister of Tourism for his upcoming speech? What speech is that, Mr. Goodluck? King Charlie. Hey, Charles, what's up? Good morning, Sandra. I would like a survey for the people introduced so that the voice of the people can be seen and heard in public spending, such as the millions the House is planning on spending to extend the runway, but major issues such as cost of living not being addressed. So it's interesting, Charles, but I think this comes down to really a question of not just competing interests, but sort of parallel projects and stuff going on. So it's possible for a government to focus on roadworks, infrastructure expansion, and so on, and also at the same time address the cost of living and other issues. So one doesn't necessarily negate the other, in other words. So just because they're doing one project doesn't mean that that means that they can't think about more than one thing at a time, or they're not simultaneously introducing other programs that could help with the cost of living. The bottom line, though, is there has to be a degree of honesty when it comes to addressing issues like cost of living. And Charles, the previous government said it. They're hopeful that you forget it. We got to find that video from them. But they said there is very little that the Cayman Islands government can do in relation to the cost of living, because we are reliant on the rest of the world. We import everything. We don't really manufacture a whole lot. The biggest cost of living, in fact, is the, I'm going to find that clip from Roy McTaggart when he said it in the parliament. Our biggest cost of living is energy, the fuel factor, right? And where does that come from? Imported overseas. We don't have a refinery here. We don't have any oil in our ground. And so we've got to understand, how do we control that price? I don't know. Right? There's already restrictions in place with the two providers of fuel in terms of how much they can mark stuff up and what they can do. And according to OFREG, they're not marking it up as much as you think. Their profit margin is monitored and approved by OFREG. So how do we control on an international market the price of fuel? We don't have that kind of control. Alejandra's planning a trip to Amsterdam. Okay. Amjad says prices are going up every week in supermarkets. I was just talking again. There's an article in the Miami Herald this week talking about property values in Miami going up 12%. So Miami-Dade County saw a double-digit spike in property values this year. And you know what that means for them? Increase in property tax as well. 12.3% Miami-Dade as 2023 began. And of course, this is according to one of their county reports that was released just yesterday. And this is the second straight year of double-digit growth in Florida's largest housing market. It says that that's also double the 6% average growth rate between 2012 and 2021. Now, the good news about this is it says that this is leading some market watchers to predict overheated prices are due for a retreat. Gosh, that would be good. Jack McCabe, who is a real estate analyst and owner of his own company there, says that I think we're probably at the peak of the hill and about to go down. So we're going to see a switch from a seller's market to a more evenly balanced one, to a market that favors buyers and renters. Wouldn't that be good? Yep. So, these are all of the housing market here is very, very lucrative. It's definitely a seller's market for sure at the moment, right? What are we going to do? RD says, don't worry, Charles. The runway extension isn't going anywhere. All the foreign investors that live behind Grand Harbor will not stand for their view of the North Sound to be obstructed. They get their way. It's interesting because a lot of people felt like the airport extension proposal is at such an early stage that maybe that press conference was a little bit premature. I've had a lot of people having those sentiments. So, I mean, I don't know. But it certainly has gotten the community talking about it. Charles says the community doesn't have faith in the amounts being spent. I say this because the results of the recent renovation that floods the departure every heavy rain. I thought that they fixed that issue, Charles. Again, that was with the airport expansion, I should say. I can't remember what they said was causing it, but I thought that that had already been addressed. But yeah, I mean, how do you spend millions of dollars and then you have an airport that's flooding out? Like, what kind of construction was that? Who was in charge of that construction project? Again, this is why I say when people say, oh, make government control industries, make government do this, make government do that. I said, you want government involved in whose life and what? Because a lot of times they just not getting it right, or they're barely getting it right. And that's the stuff that they're in charge of. So I don't know. Good morning, O'Shane. How are you? Garrett said the flood happened only once and it was fixed a long time ago. Yeah, I thought it was fixed. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We have about half an hour remaining in the program. 936-2626 is the telephone number.
Ocean Ridge Heights offers an amazing opportunity to own a piece of land in idyllic Cayman Brac, right on the bluff, starting from $80,000. Located in a quiet residential area with high elevation, these lots are ideal for a future home or investment property and are sure to go fast. Cayman Brac offers a laid-back lifestyle, amazing pristine diving, limestone caves, diverse flora, along with amazing wildlife. Inquire about the owner financing options so that you can secure your piece of paradise today. With only a few lots remaining, these are sure to go before you know it. Contact Crichton Properties today on 345-949-5250 or info@crichtonproperties.com.
The annual business surveys being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office, ESO, are ongoing. The surveys run from April 11th to June 16th, 2023, and collect information to answer questions like, how did the economy perform in 2022? What is the value of the income received from the rest of the world in 2022? Your response matters. Fill out and return your surveys to the ESO. Remember, better data, better decisions, better business. For assistance, visit www.eso.ky or call 244-4600 or 244-4676.
Now, y'all love Popeyes for my fried chicken, but the real ones also love my salty, flaky, covered in butter biscuits. Well, biscuit fans, have I got a treat for you. Introducing new, irresistible strawberry biscuits at Popeyes. The perfect balance of salty and sweet thanks to decadent strawberry bits baked right in and mouth-watering creamy icing on top. The perfect dessert for just $2.29 or grab 6 pieces for $12.59.
Strawberry biscuits forever.
Not forever, I'm afraid, honey. Limited time only and only at Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen on Eastern Avenue.
Are you tired of overpaying for TV services? Can't figure out VPNs? Constantly missing your favorite TV shows? And no access to the good stuff on streaming services? The frustration is real, but it doesn't have to be. Contact Roque, Cayman Streaming Pros. We'll put you back in the driver's seat in front of your TV. Call, WhatsApp, or message Roque today on 926-1213. Roque is not a TV service provider. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. 936-2626 is the telephone number. Don't forget, if you call me during the show, well, that means you might want to be on air. I'm not sure. So that person was just calling, do you have time to talk? No, unless you're trying to get on air. Not right now, honey, chill. So, yes. Okay, too much touch and go drop off. I don't know what Alejandro is talking about. The runway expansion into the North Sound has been talked about for years. It's been talked about and no action, says Marshall. Yes, I mean, I think it's like a 30-year-old plan or something by now. But if it's going to happen, we kind of need to start over. And, it's not just talking, but so we'll see. Mr. Moxham is here. He's chair of the CIAA board. And he said, as I said at the press briefing, the EIA and its recommendations will assist to guide the process of this proposed project as it is intended to do by law. I can guarantee that much. I can guarantee that much. I can guarantee that much, comma. If I am in the role of chairman of the board of CIAA. The minister and cabinet have approved funding for this phase of the proposed project, but there is a lengthy process to be followed. The drawings are conceptual drawings, and there's several key stages in the proposed project at this phase, which includes, and the rest of it got cut off. Maybe, Johan, you guys could come in the program and kind of break it down, explain it to people a little bit more. Because I think a lot of people aren't really understanding. All they hear is airport expansion and $1 gazillion, and that's it. So maybe you need to come and break it down for the people. Denver says that government just borrowed $500 million, I believe. Airport expansion going to happen sooner than later. Big plans for international flights. Again, I think the experts should come and try to break down what this airport expansion is all about. And why are we talking about it now? What's happening? What's pushing that discussion, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Let me just see what else is going on. Okay. So there is a notice of postponement. So the turn restriction at the Century 21 roundabout, so this is that Hurley's debacle. The National Roads Authority has announced the postponement of this is the board of the NRA has announced the postponement of the intended implementation of the left turn only restriction on the north exit. They say that they wish to extend their gratitude and feedback to the public. And I guess they'll advise us at some point when and if that's going to happen. Okay. So no surprise there, I suppose. All righty. We'll see what the board does. It's kind of interesting because I think the people who live like in the Grand Harbor development want to be able to make that turn. And everybody else who probably doesn't live there, and maybe some people who live there, I don't know, but everybody else is like, please lock it off. So it's now a question of, are we going to make road decisions based on just people in that specific area and what they want to have happen versus all of us have to use the roadways, right? So it's kind of interesting, really, about whose voice gets to be heard more. So, yeah. All right, got a caller to the program. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, Auntie Sandy.
How are you?
It's Johan Moxham here.
Yes, sir.
Calling briefly in my capacity as chairman of the Cayman Islands Airport Authority. Just wanted to, I sent a message through on the comment line, on the comment Facebook comment section that I always comment on every day.
Can I make a suggestion, Johan, right?
Yeah.
I think what you guys need to do, you yourself and whoever else I guess was at that press conference, is actually make yourself available for questions. You do your presentation in a condensed format because we don't need a complete repeat. But you kind of make yourself available for people to answer questions, understand the timeline, understand what's required. Is this a year out? Is this 2 years out? Is this a 5-year plan? Is this a 10-year plan? Like those types of things. So I'm not really sure that probably you just calling in, trying to address these specific people is the ideal way to do it from a communications perspective.
No, I was about to say to you, because I heard your comment about coming in, but I would say, it's probably best to have a structured sort of like discussion.
Right.
And I would suggest, given the fact that this is a proposed plan and a proposed project, and involves a discussion about the 30-year master plan for the Cayman Islands Airport Authority, but the strategic direction and the strategic policy directive comes from the Ministry of Tourism. Perhaps it would be best if you were to have or to invite the Minister of Tourism to, again, answer these questions. I think that is probably best for the country to hear from its elected sort of leaders. Again, I'm proud to represent the board of directors and to sit on the board, but my job and our job is to make sure from a governance and strategic perspective that we are doing things properly and in accordance with the law. But the large, big picture story, I think, is best placed, and the hows and whys are best delivered by the minister with responsibility. And I don't want to do anything to usurp that. So that's the reason why I was calling in. If there was anything else, I thought your article captured quite well what was conveyed in the press briefing. But I was just calling to say, listen, I'm not afraid of anything in this world. I got nothing to hide. I can handle myself, and I'd like to think that people recognize that I'm authentic, genuine, and responsible, because I am, me as well as anybody, truly fiscally conservative, aka cheap. So we're not going to do anything crazy on my watch as a board and as management. But I think the best person to address the issues and questions that the community has, and yourself as a journalist, would be to invite the minister. So that's the main reason why I called in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a great weekend and take care, guys. Stay safe on the road.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah,
Bye-bye.
I mean, the minister has an open invitation, as all government officials do, to come on the program and discuss any issues. It's to their benefit. Trust me. We shouldn't have to be begging anybody to come on the show. It is really to their benefit to do so. They're representative of the people, and you go where the people are. I know Minister Jay had promised that he's going to come on hopefully soon and talk about the housing situation. So, I'm going to follow up with him and see when is soon. Soon come. How soon come are we talking about? RD said, like I said, they get away with it. This is Cayman. It's not about what's good for the majority. Facts. Aliana says, wasn't that a planned solution years ago? Which one? The airport or the roundabout? I'm not sure which one specifically. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Sandra. How are you?
Not bad. How you doing?
Not too bad today. Not too bad. Some days is better than others.
Yeah, of course. That's
Of
life.
course. But yes, exactly. Anyway, I just heard Mr. Moxham. I also want to make a suggestion. This is not particular to Mr. Moxham, but something as important as the airport and its expansion. We have big long haul flights coming in here now. I think BA flies a 777, and it was a short expansion or extension, I should say, to the airport. That's why we have those sound barriers. I would also suggest that if the minister come on, that is responsible, Minister Brian, I hope that he can bring us the correct information, because I notice that some of these boards, like the airport board, they don't have, I don't think that they have people on the board, and Mr. Moxham, feel free to correct me, that knows about aviation. I don't know. I believe they had or Captain Chris Bogstrom on the board.
Well, he's on the Cayman Airways board, I believe. Not the CIAA,
okay.
which is a different board.
Okay. Well, right now, this is two halls for him. My husband, Peter Schmidt, Captain Peter Schmidt, has flown with Cayman Airways 33.5 years. He has flown aircrafts for 44. I think people of that sort of experience or about aviation and stuff should be put on board. Not people that sit down and know how to buckle a seat belt. But like I said, I can be corrected because I don't know exactly who is on these boards, because we're spending a lot of money, and it brings in tourism here, and it brings in a lot of our own people. We have to be very, very experienced in what we're speaking about, and I also think that the people of this island should not be told that this is what we're going to do by any government, which I think this government is doing a pretty good job. But things as important as that, it should be meetings in communities and hear the voices of the people, and should be people from the government get on and experience people.
Let me ask you a question about this, caller. I'm glad you brought this topic up, right? About meetings, because it seems to me that meetings have been traditionally how government agencies have tried to gain the pulse of the community and get engagement. But based on the number of people that show up or show out to meetings, it seems like that's actually a recipe for failure. Here's why I say that. Right now, we have this commission, the Boundaries Commission, or whatever they're calling themselves, right? And they are tasked with doing quite a number of things which could impact all of our lives, about how the boundary lines are going to be expanded, perhaps, or changed or altered. The voting districts are going to be different. They've had public meetings. I think there might be like a number 3 or number 4. And based on what I have heard, hardly anybody has showed up to these public meetings.
Yes, I have not in that particular or those particular meetings, but I have been to meetings that people show no interest, and yet there are the people that want to pass the most remarks, and they kind of know it all. But all I'm saying, and I know you understand, Sandra, that even if it's not public meetings, the public should know, way in advance what the any government plans to do, because after all, we're dependent on them to make this island a better place, enforce the law, and things like that. I also think that, or I hope that the director of civil aviation, Mr. Richard Smith, would be in these meetings, or let's say Mr. Bryan come on and he be in Mr. Bryan, or as often as it need to be. And I wish not only the airport, the CIA board, or whichever board it is, Cayman Airways board, I wish they would pick people that have knowledge of these things. My husband was called back to the CIA for the second contract, or the third contract, a matter of fact. And he's still there, but not many questions is being asked of him or anybody else that know about aviation that I know about, I speak to some of the pilots sometimes, and they say, no, nobody never spoke to us. Or so I hope that Mr. Bryan get himself well informed, because I know also of other countries that to be a minister, you have to have a doctorate. I don't know so much about the Caribbean countries, what they do, but I know of other places that's what they do. Not saying that Mr. Bryan or any of our ministers are not that informed, but let the people be informed. The people is listening and wanting to know what is going on in this island. Not all people. Some of us are interested because we have children that we hope one day would be leaders of this island. And that is what is important. Sandra, you have a good weekend. Thanks so much for letting me voice my opinion. And I beg Mr. Moxham, if he know different, if he would say different, maybe today or maybe another day, however you allow him to do. And I thank you again, and good weekend to you and your family.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, folks, 2 minutes remaining in the program. 936-2626. Open mic, really. We can talk about other things, but obviously that caller is saying, I mean, it's something that we say all the time. I think there's a degree of expertise that's needed on boards. I don't know that you need to necessarily have pilots on a CIAA board. Airport development is much bigger than just the pilots, right? So you can poll your pilots and get feedback from pilots and so on, but do they actually need to sit on a civil aviation board? I mean, I don't know. Cayman Airways board now, they've obviously normally have at least one pilot that's on that board, which could probably make more sense, right? But you know, it's a balance, I think, right? So here's the thing. If I am a bus driver, does that mean that I should be on the public transport board? Well, there are things that a bus driver might know about driving the bus and things on the roadways and whatever, right? So those individuals, their input is necessary, but it doesn't mean that they have to be appointed to a board to be able to get their input. But their input could be useful and necessary, but it doesn't mean that they also are transportation experts, right? Think about it. So caller, we're still on air. Are you trying to get on the radio? Oh my gosh, I love you too. Oh my gosh. I hear you're in tears. I'll call you later. All right, good. Oh my goodness, so sweet. Sharing some love this beautiful Friday morning. 936-2626. So yes, I mean, you know, I always encourage for sure experts where experts are needed. And I think the expertise that's needed crosses a number of different lines for sure. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ms. Sandra.
How are you?
Not bad.
Good.
I just want to say something on behalf of this meeting
Yes.
that they would like or always has and nobody attends to, because they mostly comes on
Oh,
with
yes.
what they have to say and they won't listen to nobody.
Uh-huh.
They don't take nobody opinion. Well, this I have to say, 30 years ago, I've been trying to get a district meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left my district, it picked up, but it didn't continue. Sometimes it do and sometimes it doesn't. But If they would have district meetings every 2 weeks and one of the ministers attend the meeting, or a preacher or an attorney, we might be able to get some inputs to the board for decisions from Caymanians.
So you think more frequent meetings is the answer?
Yes, ma'am, from district meetings, have different opinions from the citizens for their country
Okay.
on the money that we're being spent by on expatriates for just sitting and listening, taking notes and making their comments that don't value anything to us, and we has no chance to put anything in of benefits and interest in the future for our children, or our country, or the revenue for our country.
Okay.
If they do that, the politician would have something to look after within 30 days to give them an answer on the input that they put with the decision they made. You see? This is why half of the people don't pay no attention to what the politicians are bringing, because they just shoot it and they miss and everybody leaves. There's no accuracy of anything.
Yeah. I think
Thank you very
there's
much. Have a good day.
I think there is a fundamental problem too with communication in the civil service and even for the politicians.
Well, that's been there and it's going to always be there,
Yeah.
because they're only in there for themselves. They're not in there for the interests of the country and its people.
Yeah. It has to be
It's proving to
consistent,
see.
that's for sure.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
All right, my dear, no problem. Thanks, dear. Okay. Yes, very good. 9362626. Aliano says, yeah, but spending that kind of money for an airport in East End will be a pretty penny. Who's talking about airport in East End? I think I missed something. Garrett says those are blast barriers, not sound barriers. Johan says, FYI, Captain Peter Schmidt is currently employed at CIAA. His expertise is utilized in day-to-day operations of CIAA. Oh, he's employed by Civil Aviation? Oh, what's his job? So he can't be employed there and be on the board. So, yeah, he's already given them expertise then. Okay. Well, that problem is not a problem. It's already solved. Johan goes on to say there are several public consultation meetings on all three islands that help the consultants engage with the public who share their views, wants, wishes, and concerns as the master plan was formed. Again, are people even attending these meetings? Why request meetings if you yourself know you're never going to go? That's the question I have for you, the listeners. How do you want your MPs to engage with you? What is the most effective means of engagement? Everton says they have public internet too. Not too many people show up and get people to run and complain, just like the PTA. Denver says CMR should be hired to do these surveys electronically. CMR has, I believe, the largest and an international audience and followers in media today. You know what is so interesting, Denver, is maybe we'll kind of, because we got to wrap up here in a second, but we have to be on time these days, by the way. No more overtime. The powers that be said that there's shows and stuff coming up after me, so we can't really do like a whole lot of overtime. But let me say this. I'm actually working on something. It's funny you should say that, Denver, because we're going to start doing more interactive surveys on the show. There's an app, a website or whatever that allows for it. I need to sign up for it and figure out the logistics. But again, we started talking about technology, and maybe this is a very sort of full circle moment. Technology, Denver, is amazing. We were able to build the CMR platform thanks to technological advances. So this is why I always, anytime I'm hesitant about technology, I'm afraid, I remind myself of the personal benefits that I have received, that the people more generally have received because of advances in technology. We talked about medical advances. There's been social advances. There are lots and lots of things, educational advances. My master's degree was an online program, and it wasn't any less robust than sitting in a traditional classroom. And that was 17 years ago, right? During COVID in this country, we were struggling trying to figure out how to do online instruction. Those things should have long been in place. but it demonstrates that our educational system or so-called experts, they were not ready in the least bit. As our guest said earlier, COVID forced our hand in a lot of different things. It forced technology forward probably 10 years. It advanced us. All of a sudden, y'all know what Zoom is. And I'm like, Zoom has been around forever. Even my ability to do this show, folks, probably 10 years ago would have been near impossible, or it would have been so expensive that the cost would have been extremely prohibitive. Yeah. Now the technology has improved significantly. Cameras are better, right? You can get your whole setup done, your microphone. So the dinosaurs will eventually disappear if they do not adjust. This is the way of the world. We all have to adjust. And the ability in your mind to accept emerging technologies, new technologies, and sometimes it's not even new. It's new to you, but it's been around a minute, can really be a game changer. So I'm trying to embrace it. And Denver, I actually already had started from Wednesday of this week looking at this option of engaging you all more and allowing you, because a lot of times we do in formal surveys, like, what do you guys think? Call in, vote in the comment section. We're now going to be able to pull up, hopefully, like I said, I'm signing up and figuring it out, be able to pull up screens, and you just scan the barcode and you vote anywhere that you're at, and you can see the screen, you can vote, and then we can pass those results on to people who might care to know what the people are thinking. So it is important, absolutely, Denver, to get the pulse of the community, and we will do our part. Johan says, did she attend public meetings? Again, Everton saying nobody's showing up. Alejandro says same thing, not enough engagement. Ms. Brenda says district councils. I don't think that district councils is going to solve our problem at all. Trust me. I think it's going to be more expense, and it's probably going to create more problems. But we're not going to know that until we do it. But I just want y'all to remember my hesitations about district councils. We're bloating government even more. We got enough boards out there. Now we're going to bloat it even more at a micro level. Only a few people can be on district councils, you know. A district council is going to take the pulse of the community. How? Right? Mark my word, you're going to have a lot of unintended consequences. And a lot of it, again, is going to come down to political appointments. The people who are going to be on there are probably not even going to be the right people. It's going to be the people who, just because they helped a particular government get in, more political favors, costing us, the people, even more money. Garrett says YouTube has been around since 2005 and YouTube Live has been around since 2011. Absolutely. It'll be a QR code. Did I say barcode? Oh, geez, I'm peace. QR code. My apologies. So I'm hoping next week we can start rolling out. Maybe we'll do weekly polls, because otherwise it might become a bit too much, but we'll do like maybe 1 or 2 strategic questions. So listen, I'm all for it. Let's just get it done. I have no problems whatsoever with embracing technology for good. Folks, thank you all so much. Miss Arlene says, Sandy, that's not how you're thinking that DC is rubbed. What DC? District councils. What, rubbed? Is that the right word? Throwing more money at the teachers wasn't the answer for improving education. All that has resulted in is highly paid underperformers, says RD Limited. Well, listen, you need teachers that are compensated fairly, but they can't fix the problems. It's much more complex than that. It's not just about the teachers. Let's look at education next week. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the program today. Have a fantastic weekend. It is Friday. Looks like we got a little bit of sunshine that has returned to our lives today, so that's fantastic. Please, every weekend, Mario, are you listening? Because every Friday, I normally sit here and tell y'all, don't drink and drive. Don't have any more accidents on the roadway because of your stupidity and because you're drinking and driving and you still out there smashing up your McLaren in the what do you call it, into the railings. So no, I'm not picking on you. I say it every Friday. I remind people the weekend is here. I know you're going to go out. Think of other drivers. Remember, the life you save might be your own life. But think of other people as well. Other people have to use the roadway. So please, I beg you to be safe, drive cautiously, and simply don't drink and drive. You can drink all you want. I don't care if you get stupor drunk. Just call a cab. Call a friend who's sober to help you get home safely. All right, beautiful folks. Yes, that's all I got for you. Y'all be safe, and hopefully we'll see each other Monday morning bright and early.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.